Chapter 570. Must. Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. He looked at Chihiro Snow calmly. Share, are you trying to persuade me? Or are you ordering me? It's been a long time since someone dared to speak to me in such a tone, Lu Yuan said indifferently. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but stare blankly. She carefully looked at Lu Yuan and suddenly felt that the current Lu Yuan was a bit unfamiliar. He was less gentle and had more of the domineering majesty of a high and mighty emperor. This was something she had never felt from Lu Yuan before. Obuchi, what's wrong? Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ask softly. Her pair of golden eyes looked at Lu Yuan, and there was a trace of fear in her heart. This was the first time she felt this way towards Lu Yuan. I'm fine, Lu Yuan said. No, the majesty on your body right now is making me a bit scared, Chihiro Snow said softly. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but frown. Looking at Chihiro Snow's jade-like beautiful face and her timid eyes, his heart couldn't help but soften, and his entire aura instantly relaxed. I'm really fine. I just hate it when people talk to me in such a commanding tone. I apologize for scaring you just now, Cher. Lu Yuan pulled Chihiro Snow into his arms and gently patted Chihiro Snow's back. No need to apologize to me. It's just that Obuchi, I really feel that there's something wrong with your state. You weren't like this before. Chihiro Snow's red lips opened slightly and said softly, Is that so? Upon hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan's heart froze. He carefully recalled that he seemed to be more dignified than before. It was as if he hated it from the bottom of his heart when others spoke to him in a commanding tone, and this situation seemed to be getting worse. In fact, Chihiro Snow's tone just now was quite tactful, but the word be sure struck a nerve, causing a surge of anger in his heart to explode. It was as if his authority had been violated, and he felt that Chihiro Snow was ordering him around. Therefore, he unconsciously exuded the majesty of an emperor. Now that he thought about it, there was something wrong with this situation. Although he never liked others ordering him around, his reaction this time was a little too sensitive and intense. However, when he scanned his entire body with his spiritual power, he did not find anything wrong. Furthermore, there was no reaction from the clear chi divine power and the clear chi scripture. This meant that everything was normal. There was nothing bad that affected his emotions. But what was going on? This state couldn't have appeared for no reason, right? He was a little puzzled in his heart, so he prepared to ask his cheat. System, what's going on with my current situation? Lu Yuan asked softly. The host's golden dragon bloodline is already on the verge of evolution. It's not far from a complete transformation. Dragons are proud. Moreover, the host will advance to the Dragon King realm this time. Under such circumstances, it's very normal for the host's majesty to increase greatly. The system's cold voice sounded. So you mean that my bloodline is not far from a complete transformation? Hearing this, Lu Yuan could not help but feel a little excited. Yes, it can be as early as 1 year or as slow as 2 years. The host's bloodline will completely transform. Due to the influence of the clear chi divine power, the host's bloodline has already embarked on its own path. Once it transforms, no one or beast bloodline in the entire Douluo continent will be able to suppress the host. The system said, Then what if it's compared to the dragon god's bloodline? Lu Yuan could not help but ask. It's not inferior to the dragon god's bloodline. The system's cold voice sounded again. Is that so? That's great. Hearing the system's words, Lu Yuan could not help but feel happy in his heart. Almost 2 years? It seems that 2 years later, when the bloodline completely evolves, he can really take off. However, Lu Yuan's thoughts turned and he asked, Then what should I do with my current state? My excessive reaction just now scared Cher. There's no other way. This is the unique majesty of the Dragon King. It's similar to an instinct and cannot be dispelled. However, the solution is also very simple. Just tell her not to say those words that have the meaning of command in the future. As long as you don't trigger it, nothing will happen. When your bloodline completely transforms and stabilizes, you can completely control it. This state will disappear. The system said. Is that so? Hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded lightly. It seemed that this was the only way. Looking at Chihiro Snow in his arms, Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with tenderness, and then he told Chihiro Snow what the system had just said. So that's how it is. After listening to Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow nodded and her heart relaxed a lot. She thought that Lu Yuan's love for her had changed. He actually released his majesty to her and spoke to her in that tone. It turned out that it was not his original intention. It was just the influence of the bloodline approaching the transformation. Obuchi is still the same Obuchi, and his love for her has not changed. That's good. It's just that I have to pay attention to what I say in the future. Don't say these words with the tone of command, so as not to cause an excessive reaction in Obuchi. Cher, what are you thinking about? Are you still thinking about what happened just now? Looking at Chihiro Snow's silence, Lu Yuan couldn't help but gently stroke her pretty face and asked softly. Chihiro Snow nodded and winked at Lu Yuan playfully. She sighed and said, It seems that I have to pay attention to what I say in the future. Otherwise, if I provoke you again, I will be scared again. Chihiro Snow said, and couldn't help but reveal a smile. You. Snappily poking Chihiro Snow's nose, Lu Yuan knew that this girl was deliberately joking to liven up the atmosphere. The effect was not bad. The atmosphere between the two became relaxed again. Come on, share. I'll give you a gift as an apology. Lu Yuan smiled slightly. What gift? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow was a little curious for a moment. It's this. Lu Yuan turned his palm slightly, and a piece of silver token with a golden dragon engraved on it appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. This is? Looking at this token, Chihiro Snow was a little curious for a moment. This is the Dragon King's decree. You can refer to the Pope's decree and the angel's decree for specific effects. With this Dragon King's decree, you can mobilize the team of our Dragon King Palace. All the teams below the elder level of the Dragon King Palace will be at your disposal. Lu Yuan said softly. Why are you giving me this? Chihiro Snow asked. I want to give it to you, so I'll give it to you. Besides, my Dragon King Palace is your Dragon King Palace. Naturally, you can mobilize it. You won't treat me as an outsider, right? Lu Yuan said. Who will treat you as an outsider? With that, Chihiro Snow took the Dragon King's decree from Lu Yuan's hand and looked at it carefully. Chapter 571. Seeing Chihiro Snow accept the Dragon King's token without hesitation, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. That's right. Since he gave it to him, he should accept it generously. Why should he be polite with him? One must know that when he received the Angel token and the Pope token, he was not polite at all. And now, he had a Holy Son's token in his hand, an exclusive token belonging to the Holy Son. Speaking of which, he now had a lot of tokens in his hand. The Pope's token, the Angel token, the Holy Son's token, and his own Dragon King's token. Each of these tokens had great power. If it were anyone else, as long as they had one of these tokens, they would be able to do whatever they wanted on the mainland. As long as the token was out, no one would dare to cause trouble. Of course, for Lu Yuan, these tokens were just symbols. His words were much more effective than these tokens. Chihiro Snow looked at it for a while, and then put away the Dragon King's token. Obuchi, let me up. Chihiro Snow said softly. What? I haven't hugged enough yet. Lu Yuan muttered. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but roll his eyes at Lu Yuan and said snappily, Let me up. I have something for you. You can give it to me while I'm sitting. Lu Yuan said. Listening to Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow didn't say anything and just looked at him quietly. Forget it. Being stared at by Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan really couldn't stand it and immediately let go of Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow stood up and walked to the side of the desk. With a slight wave of his hand, 4 wooden boxes appeared on the desk. Seeing this scene, Lu Yuan understood a little. No wonder Chihiro Snow had to stand up. These 4 wooden boxes really couldn't be held with 2 hands. Share, what's inside? Looking at the 4 wooden boxes, Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask. Why don't you guess? Chihiro Snow said with a smile. Can you guess what the benefits are? Lu Yuan asked. If you guess correctly, I'll listen to you tonight. Chihiro Snow winked at Lu Yuan and chuckled. Share, when did you learn to speak like this? But I like it. I won't be able to guess, but it won't be hard to find out what's inside. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up as he spoke. You're not allowed to peek with your polychoria. Chihiro Snow rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan in annoyance. She wanted Lu Yuan to guess, but this guy actually cheated. What's the point of this? Chihiro Snow's red lips slightly pouted. She couldn't be bothered to keep Lu Yuan in suspense. With a wave of her hand, the lids of the 4 wooden boxes were opened at the same time. Suddenly, a strong wave of energy swept out in an instant. Soul bones? Seeing the things inside the wooden boxes, Lu Yuan couldn't help but have a look of surprise on his face. It wasn't because he had never seen a soul bone before, but because he was shocked by Chihiro Snow's generosity. Cher was really generous to give him 4 soul bones at once. That's right, these are soul bones. Chihiro Snow smiled and said, the 2 on the left are the soul bones of the Blood Emperor from last time. After he was killed by Gu Yuna, I kept his soul bones. They happen to be a 20,000-year skull bone and a 50,000-year right arm bone. Since Gu Yuna killed him, I'll give them to you. The remaining 2 are gifts from me. A few days ago, I raided the houses of a few aristocrats who didn't see eye to eye with me and obtained these 2 soul bones. Both of them are leg bones, but their age is low. They're both 1,000 year. I have no use for them, so I might as well give them to you. It just so happens that you want to establish a force, so they should be useful. Chihiro Snow said. They are indeed useful, but giving me 4 soul bones at once is too much of a gift. I have no way to repay you. How about I use my body to repay you? I won't leave tonight. How about I stay and accompany you? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow playfully and said, Go to hell. You're not serious. You speak as if you'll leave tonight if I don't give you the soul bones. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Chihiro Snow said in annoyance. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but chuckle. It seemed like his share really understood him. I have 4 more soul bones. It seems like my collection of soul bones is getting more and more abundant. Lu Yuan sighed softly and waved his hand slightly. Suddenly, a sea of soul bones with flowing lights and vibrant colors appeared on the table, and a strong energy wave swept out. These 5 soul bones belong to Tang Hao. The best quality ones are these 2 inherited soul bones from the Clear Sky sect. They're about 90,000 years old. The next is the torso bone, which is about 40,000 years old. There's also the skull bone, which is 30,000 years old. These 2 left arm bones were obtained when I hunted those evil soul masters in the dense fog forest. One is 10,000 years old, and the other is 8,000 years old. And this illusion skull bone, which I obtained after killing Shernyan from the Tsanghui Academy. It's slightly more than 10,000 years old, less than 20,000 years old. In addition to the 4 soul bones that you gave me, Cher, I now have 12 soul bones. Lu Yuan chuckled. Your collection of soul bones can't be compared to some of the big powers. Chihiro Snow laughed softly. Perhaps. It's a pity that these soul bones are too young, and I can't use any of them. After all, I'm someone who wants to have soul bones that are more than 100,000 years old. These soul bones can only be given to others. Lu Yuan sighed softly and said. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow's mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. If someone else had heard Lu Yuan's words, they might have had the urge to beat him up. After all, soul bones were hard to come by, and it was already considered a blessing for an ordinary person to obtain even one. This fellow had as many as 12, yet he was still being so picky. However, Chihiro Snow's mouth only twitched slightly, and he returned to normal after a while. After all, Lu Yuan wanted to have soul bones that were more than 100,000 years old, and she, Chihiro Snow, was not inferior. Every soul bone in her angel set was 99,999 years old. As long as she absorbed 6 of them and became a god, she would also be able to upgrade all of them to 100,000 years old. After all, who didn't have cheats these days? Although Chihiro Snow's cheats were not as big as Lu Da's, she still had cheats. There was a saying, if you're not a family, you won't enter a family. This saying was true. Lu Yuan and his 4 women all had cheats. Not to mention the other 3. Even Gu Yuna had consecutively activated 2 cheats, the Life Spirit Crystal and the Secret of Swordsman. Otherwise, it would take her at least 20,000 years to recover, and she wouldn't have been able to fully recover by now. Why aren't you putting them away? Are you setting up a stall? Seeing Lu Yuan putting all the soul bones on the table and looking at them with interest, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but say aloud, "Hey, don't be in such a hurry. I'm just trying to see how rich I am. It's not fun anyway, so I can only count the soul bones to pass the time." Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but reveal a trace of black lines on his forehead. Where did Lu Yuan get these weird interests from? Thinking about it, Chihiro Snow shook his head helplessly. Chapter 572. The sky gradually darkened. Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow sat opposite each other in the dining hall as they ate. There were only Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow in the huge dining hall. To prevent their identities from being exposed, the snake spear Douluo had personally delivered the food. "Cher, how long has it been since we sat down and had a proper meal together?" Lu Yuan asked softly as he gently put down his chopsticks. "It's been a long time. The last time we sat down and had a meal alone was a year ago," Chihiro Snow said. "I'm not a good boyfriend. I can't even eat with you every day." Lu Yuan sighed softly. "It's not your fault. You have things to do, and so do I. We both have important responsibilities. After the Martial Soul Palace unifies the continent, we'll have plenty of time to get along." Chihiro Snow said gently. "Yes, Cher, you're right. As long as the continent isn't unified, we can't let go of our responsibilities. These troublesome matters won't end." Lu Yuan sighed softly. After sighing softly, Lu Yuan glanced at the 6-winged angel's brand on Chihiro Snow's head. He thought of something and asked, "Cher, have you triggered your second test?" "No." After hearing this, Chihiro Snow shook his head and said, "I haven't received any news about the second test. What about you? Have you triggered the second test of the Holy Sword test?" "If you haven't, how can I have?" Lu Yuan smiled and said, "My assessment is to serve your assessment. Generally speaking, after the first assessment is over, the second assessment will begin soon. However, our situation seems to be a little different." "Yes." Chinrinshu nodded slightly and said, "This should be the first time in history that a test like ours has happened. I've never heard of God sending down 2 9 tests. It's normal for there to be some differences." "That's true." Lu Yuan smiled faintly and did not comment further. "By the way, Obuchi, what's your decision on cooperating with the Heaven Do Empire? From our point of view, accepting the Snow Emperor's invitation is very beneficial to our plan." Chihiro Snow said, "I've already thought about it. If you can think of it, I can naturally think of it too. However, if we were to be roped in so easily without any obstruction or reason, it would be easy to be suspected. Therefore, other than trying to get more benefits when I negotiate with the Snowy Night Emperor, we also need to send a signal." "What signal?" Chihiro Snow asked. "It's a sign of friction with the Martial Soul Palace," Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. "Oh, what do you mean? Hurry up and tell me." Chihiro Snow was a little curious and hurriedly asked. "It's very simple. In the eyes of others, our Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace don't interfere with each other's business. What I want to do now is to create some friction for others to see." Lu Yuan said. "Then how do you plan to create friction?" Chihiro Snow asked. "For this, we'll have to let that old man, Saka's, come out and show his existence." Lu Yuan smiled. "Saka's?" Chihiro Snow was a little puzzled. Seeing Chihiro Snow's puzzled expression, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "Don't you know that Saka's is the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament's Heaven Do Division's lot-drawing contestant?" "I know, but what does this have to do with what you're saying?" Chihiro Snow asked. "We can get Saka's to arrange an interesting team to fight against my Heavenly Star Academy. After that, we'll make them lose miserably. It'll be best if this team has a good relationship with the Martial Soul Palace," Lu Yuan said. You're talking about the Elephant Academy? After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow immediately reacted. If there was a team in the Heaven Do division that had a good relationship with the Martial Soul Palace, it would definitely be the Elephant Academy. This was because the Elephant Academy's backer was the Elephant Sect, and the Elephant Sect had always had a close relationship with the Martial Soul Palace. If the Elephant Academy lost miserably, it wouldn't look good for the Elephant Sect. If they offended the Elephant Sect, it would mean that they would have a small conflict with the Martial Soul Palace. However, this alone isn't enough. After all, this is a competition. Even if the Elephant Academy loses, it can only be said that they're inferior. Although the Elephant Sect has always been close to the Martial Soul Palace, they're still not a Martial Soul Palace sect. If we offend them, we'll have a small conflict with the Martial Soul Palace, but this conflict isn't enough. Chihiro Snow said, "Of course I know this. This is just one of the reasons." Lu Yuan smiled faintly and asked, "Is this old man Sokka's obsessed with power? Is he greedy and stingy and likes to take advantage of others?" "That's true, but Sokka's is still loyal to the Martial Soul Palace." Chihiro Snow nodded and said, "And I remember that Sokka's isn't young anymore." Lu Yuan smiled. "Yes, Sokka's is already over 90 years old," Chihiro Snow replied. "Then it's easy. We can spread the news that Sokka's sent people to the Dragon King Palace to buy longevity pills. Due to a dispute over the price, they refused to pay enough. Instead, they wanted to use the power of the Martial Soul Palace to force the purchase. In the end, they were kicked out by me. After Sokka's found out, he threw a tantrum in the Martial Soul Palace and said that he would teach me a lesson. He also secretly sent people to interfere with the business of the Dragon King Palace. After a few rounds of fighting, the Dragon King Palace temporarily gained the upper hand. After all, the Martial Soul Palace is definitely not as powerful as the Dragon King Palace. However, Sokka's has been unwilling to give up and wants to take revenge in secret. Cher, what do you think of my idea?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile. "It sounds okay, and it fits your and Sokka's character. Sokka's is greedy and stingy, and likes to take advantage of others, so he definitely won't be willing to pay a high price. Moreover, with his style, it's normal for him to secretly threaten the Martial Soul Palace. In their eyes, you have always been arrogant and don't care about anything. It's reasonable for you to kick them out. If this news spreads, they shouldn't be suspicious, and a series of actions that followed will unfold naturally. Then, your Heavenly Star Academy team will meet the Elephant Academy team in the competition. It can be understood that Sokka has deliberately arranged it to take revenge on you. He wanted to defeat your Heavenly Star Academy. After all, the relationship between your Heavenly Star Academy and the Dragon King Palace is unknown to others, but the Snowy Knight Emperor, Sokka's, and the others know. But the result is that your Heavenly Star Academy team suffered a crushing defeat. Sokka's arrangements all went down the drain. Instead, his face was slapped painfully. In this way, the news of the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace being at odds will be even more deeply rooted in people's hearts. The Snowy Knight Emperor will also lower his guard against your Dragon King Palace and will be more eager to rope in your Dragon King Palace. Chapter 573. This is what you're thinking, isn't it, Obuchi? Chihiro Snow said with a smile. Indeed, my share is so smart. I can't hide anything from you. I just said it casually, and you connected all the connections. Impressive, impressive. Lu Yuan praised. What's so impressive about that? You've already said so much. If I still can't figure it out, I'll be a little too stupid. Chihiro Snow rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan and said with a smile. Huh. Lu Yuan chuckled after being rolled his eyes at by Chihiro Snow. He didn't mind at all. However, Obuchi, although there aren't any major problems with your plan, you have to be careful when you implement it. Try to make it as realistic as possible. After all, Ning Fengji and the others are all sly old foxes. They can discover anything that's not right. Of course, for this plan, the Dragon King Palace can only deliberately compromise some benefits. For example, how many carts of agility tea leaves have been burned, and how many storage-type soul tools have been destroyed. How many people have been accidentally injured? I will unintentionally leak this information, Lu Yuan said with a smile. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Sly old fox." Hey, what do you mean by sly old fox? Don't you know how to talk? This is called being resourceful. When I was designing, I took into consideration my personality, Sokka's personality, and the style of the martial soul palace. The plan is so detailed. Isn't that being resourceful? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow with dissatisfaction. Yes. You're resourceful. He looked at Lu Yuan and said helplessly, "You're too perfunctory. You're not sincere," Lu Yuan said plainly. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After a while, Chihiro Snow regained his serious look and softly said to Lu Yuan, "Then I'm afraid I'll have to inform Sokka's about this matter. Of course, if you want to put on a show, you have to go all the way. This time, except for a few people who know my real identity, including my Dragon King Palace, everyone is in the plan. If you want to deceive old foxes like Snowy Night Emperor and Ningfengji, you have to deceive your own people first. After all, the Snowy Night Emperor and the others will definitely ask Douluo to understand the situation. If the arrangement is not in place, it will be exposed. Therefore, I have to deceive Douluo and the others as well. Only the most honest reaction can make these old foxes believe. After all, not everyone has the ability to lie with their eyes open and their heart beating fast." Lu Yuan said indifferently. Yes, what you said makes sense. Chihiro Snow nodded at first. After that, he seemed to have discovered something. He stared at Lu Yuan and examined him. What did you say just now? You said that you can lie with your eyes open and your heart beating fast. Then when you told me those things in the past, did you also lie? After hearing this, Lu Yuan was shocked. He realized that he had miscalculated. Just now, he had blurted out this sentence. When he thought about what he had said to Chihiro Snow, he realized that there were indeed some lies. For example, he had lied about Long Xiaoyao's origin, the origin of soul tools, and so on. After all, these things involve the system. He couldn't explain it clearly, and could only bluff his way through. However, he was a little panicky now that Chihiro Snow had asked him this. However, even though he was a little guilty, his expression didn't change at all. He couldn't admit to something like this. Therefore, the look in his eyes changed. His eyes were filled with deep emotions. He said, "How can that be? That's only to others. I've always been telling the truth to you, Cher." Really? Chihiro Snow stared straight at Lu Yuan. Really? I can swear to the heavens that if I've lied to you in any way, my intestines will be pierced and my heart will be bitten by 10,000 snakes, Lu Yuan said with a righteous look on his face. Obuchi. After hearing Lu Yuan's oath, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but exclaim softly. He was very touched. Then, Cher, do you believe me? Lu Yuan asked. I do. I believe that everything you've said is true, Chihiro Snow hurriedly said. After hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. He was very pleased with himself. Pierced intestines? I have the esoteric character. I can recover it easily. Bitten by 10,000 snakes? I'm the owner of the Golden Dragon bloodline. I'm about to evolve to a higher realm. If any snake dares to approach me, I can scare them away with just a little pressure. It's impossible for them to bite me. Therefore, this oath doesn't hurt me at all. However, seeing how touched his baby Cher was, Lu Yuan secretly thought that he should make a few more oaths in the future. However, after thinking for a while, Lu Yuan retracted his thoughts. He looked at Chihiro Snow opposite him, smiled slightly, and said, Cher, let's hurry up and eat. After we finish eating, there's still business waiting for us. As soon as he said this, a red glow crept up Chihiro Snow's cheeks. Her face was full of shyness. A pair of beautiful eyes stared at Lu Yuan reproachfully. However, she didn't say any words of objection. She just unconsciously sped up her eating speed. Another 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 2 days, something big happened in the Heavendo Empire. The Dragon King Palace's palace master and the Platinum Bishop of the Martial Soul Temple, Sokka's, had an argument. Sokka has sent someone to the Dragon King Palace to purchase longevity pills. Because he couldn't bear to spend the money, he even tried to use the might of the Martial Soul Palace to pressure the Dragon King Palace. In the end, the Dragon King Palace's palace master kicked him out. One of his arms was even broken. It was rumored that the poisoned Douluo did it personally. The Platinum Bishop naturally wouldn't take this lying down. He threw a tantrum in the Martial Soul Temple and declared that he would teach the Dragon King Palace a lesson. There were even rumors that Sokka sent someone to attack the Dragon King Palace's transport team. As a result, many people from the Dragon King Palace were injured, and all the goods were burned to the ground. The Dragon King Palace naturally didn't back down. It was rumored that the Dragon Emperor Douluo personally barged into the Martial Soul Temple and gave Sokka's a good beating. It was rumored that Sokka's head was swollen. Sokka's also stopped and didn't do anything else. However, everyone knew one thing. The Martial Soul Temple and the Dragon King Palace were going to fight. Of course, for ordinary organizations, these things were just stories. However, for some of the top-tier organizations, they smelled something different. They felt that there was something to be gained from this. Among them, there were two people who were the most representative. One was the Snowy Night Emperor, while the other was Ning Fengji. The two of them had one thing in common. They were both against the Martial Soul Palace. Chapter 574. What happened today undoubtedly gave them hope of winning over the Dragon King Palace. Since the Martial Soul Palace and the Dragon King Palace had a conflict, it would be much easier to win over the Dragon King Palace. As a matter of fact, the two of them got together again and were discussing Lu Yuan. Sect Master Ning, do you think the news from Heavendo Imperial City is credible? The Snowy Night Emperor asked. Your Majesty, in my opinion, it is credible. Ning Fengji said. Oh, why? Can Sect Master Ning explain it to this emperor? The Snowy Night Emperor asked. Of course. Let me analyze it for your Majesty. Ning Fengji said softly. First of all, Sokka has sent someone to buy the longevity pill. We can all understand this. Sokka is old and doesn't have much lifespan left. Under such circumstances, I think he must be interested in the Dragon King Palace's longevity pill. After all, no one can resist the temptation of being able to live for another 10 or 20 years. I think the Emperor should understand this point. Hearing this, the Snowy Night Emperor nodded. His body wasn't in good condition, and he didn't have much lifespan left. Therefore, he also yearned for the longevity pill. Therefore, he could understand Sokka's actions. The next problem is the price of the longevity pill. Since this longevity pill has the miraculous effect of prolonging one's lifespan, its price must be very high. Sokka is also known for being greedy and stingy. It is very difficult to make him pay too much for the longevity pill. Moreover, he is one of the 4 platinum bishops of the Martial Soul Palace. His status is high, and he has always been arrogant. He doesn't even put the Empire in his eyes. Under such circumstances, it is normal for him to send someone to threaten the Martial Soul Palace openly and secretly. After all, this is very similar to the Martial Soul Palace's style. Ning Fengji said, That's true. The Snow Knight Heavenly Emperor gave a slight nod before suddenly asking, Sect Master Ning, I have a question. How expensive is this longevity pill? Even if Salus is stingy, he wouldn't dare to fight with the Dragon King Palace over a few longevity pills. Although the Martial Spirit Palace isn't afraid, the Dragon King Palace is also very powerful. Salus isn't stupid. Since he dares to do this, could it be that the price of the longevity pills is too high? Hearing the Snowy Night Emperor's doubts, Ning Fengji smiled faintly and said, It's not ridiculously expensive, but it's not cheap either. I relied on my friendship with the Dragon King Palace's Palace Master Lu to purchase 10 longevity pills. However, I had to pay 10 million gold soul coins and half a kilogram of 7 treasures glazed tea for these 10 longevity pills. Furthermore, this is a friendship price. You can imagine that Sokka's must have paid a higher price when he went to buy them. At least 2 to 3 million gold soul coins per pill. Your Majesty, Do you think that Sokka is willing to pay such a price? Ning Fengji asked. Of course not. 2 to 3 million gold soul coins is enough to buy some soul bones of lower quality. A single longevity pill is so expensive. Even I would feel a little heartache if I were to buy a few at once. After all, even though I have Tiendo and have a lot of business, my expenses are also very high. The Snowy Knight Emperor said. Yes, even the Heavenly Emperor would feel heartache, let alone Sokka's. Since he didn't want to pay such a high price, it's normal for him to use the Martial Soul Palace's power to threaten him secretly. However, he didn't expect to meet a tough nut, someone who is even more unscrupulous than the Martial Soul Palace. He immediately broke the arm of the person he sent and chased him out of the palace. He's so domineering. He didn't give the Martial Soul Palace any face at all. After all, Sokka's is a platinum bishop. After being humiliated like this, he naturally couldn't hold it in. He didn't dare to openly declare war against the Dragon King Palace, but he secretly targeted the Dragon King Palace's transport team. I heard that the Dragon King Palace suffered a lot this time. Although no one died, many were injured. The value of the goods lost was no less than 20 million gold soul coins. Ning Fengji said, The Dragon King Palace suffered such a huge loss? The Snowy Knight Emperor was a little surprised. He thought that only a few carriages of goods were burned. He didn't expect the losses to be as high as 20 million gold soul coins. This was a huge sum. In all fairness, if he lost 20 million gold soul coins for no reason, he would feel heartache for a long time. Yes. Otherwise, Hallmaster Lu wouldn't have sent the Dragon Emperor Douluo out. He went straight to the Martial Soul Temple and caused a huge ruckus. I heard that Sokka's was hung up and beaten black and blue. The Dragon Emperor even took about 20 million golden soul coins worth of items from the Martial Soul Temple's treasury before he left. Ning Fengji said softly. Sokka's didn't react after being humiliated like this. The Snowy Knight Emperor was a little curious. Given the Martial Soul Palace's domineering style, why did they stop just like that? It's not that they didn't react. They just didn't dare to do anything. An ultimate Douluo personally issued a warning. Even the Martial Soul Palace wouldn't do anything unless they wanted to start an all-out war, let alone Sokka's. Sokka's was originally very arrogant. He thought that the Dragon King Palace wouldn't do anything extreme even if they were furious. However, he didn't expect the Hallmaster of the Dragon King Palace to be so fearless. He directly sent the Dragon Emperor Douluo and slapped Sokka's in the face. This way, Sokka's didn't dare to do anything. After all, they were in the wrong. There was no reason for them to seek revenge. Therefore, they could only stop. However, the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace's feud has been formed. Your Majesty, this will be very beneficial for your next move to rope in the Dragon King Palace. Ning Fengji sighed softly. Secmaster Ning is right. This is indeed a great opportunity for us. Speaking of which, I should be thanking Sokka's. The Snowy Knight Emperor laughed. Ning Fengji also smiled and did not comment. He also felt that Sokka's assistance came at the perfect time. After all, Lu Yuan's attitude toward the Empire wasn't very good to begin with, and he didn't have a good opinion of the Empire either. It would be difficult to rope him in. However, the success rate was much higher now. For the sake of the Dragon King Palace, the possibility of cooperating with the Martial Soul Palace was greatly increased. Oh yes, Secmaster Ning, I have a question. Can you answer it? The Snowy Knight Emperor asked. Ask away, Your Majesty. I'll tell you everything I know. Ning Fengji said. Well, I'm very curious. Why is Secmaster Ning so clear about the casualties and losses of the Dragon King Palace? I don't know about this at all. The Snowy Knight Emperor asked. Hearing this, Ning Fengji smiled faintly and said, I know so much because my daughter is in the Dragon King Palace. I got this information from my daughter. Oh, Miss Ning is in the Dragon King Palace? Hearing this, the Snowy Knight Emperor was stunned at first. Then, he came to a sudden realization and his gaze became ambiguous. Secmaster Ning is really scheming. However, Miss Ning and Palace Master Lu Yuan are very compatible. Perhaps Secmaster Ning will have a young and talented son-in-law soon. Hearing the snowy night emperor's words, Ning Fengji smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Chapter 575. Heaven-Do Imperial City, Martial Soul Temple. Sokka's was lying on the bed. His head was still wrapped tightly with white bandages. He had no choice. Long Xiaoyao's beating wasn't fake. It was a real beating. Sokka's had been beaten up from head to toe. He had been beaten up in front of many deacons of the Martial Soul Temple. Sokka's had really become famous this time. All the leaders of the major organizations in Heaven-Do Imperial City knew that he had been beaten up. After all, such news couldn't be hidden in front of so many people. Of course, Lu Yuan didn't intend to hide it. This was what he wanted them to know. Ning Fengji's understanding of the situation was also what Lu Yuan wanted him to know. As for how to do it, it was actually very simple. Lu Yuan did not do anything. He just brought Ning Rongrong with him that day. As for the reason, it was not necessary at all. Lu Yuan only needed to say one sentence, and Ning Rongrong came over eagerly. She could not wait to be by Lu Yuan's side. Then, Ning Rongrong coincidentally found out everything that happened next. Ning Rongrong was also very innocent. She couldn't hide any secrets. Ning Fengji would know everything if he asked her. If Ning Fengji knew this, it meant that the snowy night emperor knew too. Lu Yuan had achieved his goal. The whole thing could be said to be very cleverly arranged and would not arouse suspicion at all. If there was one thing that was not perfect, it would be that Fei Fei had indirectly used Ning Rongrong, taking advantage of her innocence and love for Lu Yuan. As a result, Lu Yuan felt a little guilty towards Ning Rongrong. He had been very nice to her over the past 2 days. He accompanied her around the Dragon King Hall and even gave her a Class 6 spiritual defensive soul tool that could resist spiritual attacks. This made Ning Rongrong think that Lu Yuan had accepted her. The smile on her face didn't fade for a long time. Right now, Lu Yuan had come to the Martial Soul Temple. Sokka's. A figure suddenly appeared in Sokka's room. This figure was dressed in white and had a triangular object flickering with resplendent blue light spinning in his hand. A faint voice came from this figure's mouth. "Boo!" A voice suddenly rang out in the room, startling Sokka's, and he couldn't help but yell. He hurriedly got to his feet, and the appearance of a white-robed figure entered his eyes. "Your Highness!" Sokka's was startled at the sight of the visitor's appearance. He hurriedly stood up and bowed slightly to Lu Yuan. "Greetings, Your Highness. No need to be so courteous." Looking at Sokka's, Lu Yuan said indifferently, "Sokka's, do you resent me for beating you up to this extent?" Upon hearing Lu Yuan's words, Sokka's shuddered and hurriedly said, "Your Highness, you must be joking. I wouldn't dare." "You don't dare?" "Not you don't. Does that mean you have resentment in your heart?" Lu Yuan asked. I don't hold any grudges," Sokka's hurriedly explained. "You don't have to deny it. I beat you up for no reason, so it's normal for you to have resentment. I'm not an unreasonable person." As Lu Yuan spoke, he waved his hand gently, and a dense white light engulfed Sokka's. It was the clear aura of divine power. In just a short while, Sokka's injuries were completely healed. Elder Dragon Emperor's soul power contains the power of extreme darkness. It's difficult for you to remove it with your cultivation, so your recovery will be slower. Thus, I help you heal it, Lu Yuan said plainly. "Thank you, Your Highness Chosen One. Your Highness Chosen One is truly extraordinary." Sokka's complimented. This time, he wasn't being perfunctory, but sincere. He was indeed shocked by Lu Yuan's methods. It wasn't that he hadn't hired a healing soul master before, but Long Xiaoyao's soul power rank was too high, and a healing effect wasn't very obvious. Thus, he had always wrapped his head with a white veil. After all, it wasn't good to be beaten black and blue. Lu Yuan opened his right hand, and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. He tossed it at Sokka's, who hurriedly caught it and held it in his palm. This jade bottle contains longevity pills. There are 2 of them, and they can increase your lifespan by 10 years. Take it as compensation for the beating you received this time, Lu Yuan said softly. Longevity pills? Sokka's was delighted when he heard this, and he opened the jade bottle to take a look. Sure enough, there were 2 round medicinal pills within, and a refreshing fragrance assaulted his nose. Merely taking a whiff of it cleared his mind and instantly refreshed his mind. "Thank you, Your Highness, for your gift." Sokka hurriedly expressed his gratitude. This time, the resentment in his heart for being beaten up for no reason completely disappeared. If being beaten up once could give him 10 more years to live, Sokka said that he was willing to do it again. No, he wanted to do it a few more times. The Holy Sun is a kind person. Indeed, there's meat to eat if I follow him. Sokka thought inwardly. Looking at the unconcealable joy on Sokka's face, Lu Yuan's gaze was calm. This was the way of managing people. When it was time to reward, reward, and when it was time to punish, punish. And since Sokka's had been beaten up for no reason, some necessary compensation was still necessary. Otherwise, even if Sokka's appeared obedient on the surface, he would still harbor resentment in his heart. If he were to do something in the future, it would be inevitable that he would only obey on the surface but disobey on the inside. In fact, as time passed, it was not impossible for him to become disloyal. Lu Yuan still understood these things. Casually giving out 2 longevity pills not only eliminated Sokka's resentment, but also made him even more loyal. This was undoubtedly worth it. "Oh, right. Sokka's, there's something I need you to do," Lu Yuan said. "Please give your orders, Your Highness, and I'll definitely do it for you," Sokka said. "The opponents for tomorrow's match have already been decided. The day after tomorrow, I hope to be able to fight against the Elephant Academy team. Make the arrangements." Lu Yuan's indifferent voice rang out. "Yes, Your Highness." Sokka nodded and said, "When the time comes, I'll need you to help me put on a show for that old man, the Snow Knight Emperor. This shouldn't be a problem for you, right?" Lu Yuan said softly, "Rest assured, Your Highness, I won't let you down. It's just that." Sokka was a little hesitant to speak. "It's just that what?" Lu Yuan asked. "It's just that if we let the Elephant Academy lose too badly, that old man Huyenjun's face might not look good. As you know, he has always been close to our martial soul palace. He's considered one of us, so we'll have to give him some compensation," Lu Yuan continued. "Your Highness is wise," Sokka said. "Understood. You can give this to him." A light flashed in Lu Yuan's hand, and a left arm bone appeared in his hand. It was the worst soul bone among the 12 in his possession. It was only 8,000 years old, and it was also the one that Lu Yuan had always looked down on. Fortunately, he could give it to Huyenjun as compensation this time. Chapter 576. Although an 8,000-year soul bone wasn't anything special, it was still a soul bone. It was still very precious. Not everyone was as insightful as Lu Yuan. Most people's eyes would have lit up the moment they saw the 8,000-year soul bone. For example, Sokka's in front of him. This is a soul bone. Sokka's looked at Lu Yuan in shock. He didn't expect Lu Yuan to be so generous. He actually took out a soul bone as compensation. He was stunned for a moment. He didn't know Lu Yuan well enough. He didn't know that this guy had 11 soul bones, each of which was more than 10,000 years old. Among them, the 2 inherited soul bones of the Clear Sky sect, the right arm bone and left leg bone, were more than 90,000 years old. There was also the Blood Emperor's right arm bone, which was more than 50,000 years old. Among the remaining soul bones, there was a 40,000-year torso bone and 3 skulls. They were all very precious. Under such circumstances, how could Lu Yuan be interested in an 8,000-year left arm bone? He didn't know how to use it. If he gave it to the people around him, he would complain that it was too old. If he wanted to sell it, Lu Yuan didn't lack money now. Hence, he could take it out as compensation. "Your Highness, are you going to give this soul bone to Huyenjun and the others as compensation?" Sokka was a little surprised. "Yes, it's just a soul bone. Just take it as compensation. However, don't reveal my name when you give it to them. Just say that it's from Your Highness. The less people know that I'm the Holy Sun, the better. Do you understand?" Lu Yuan said. "Yes, I understand." Sokka replied. "Okay, since that's the case, I'll take my leave first." Lu Yuan, said as the sea god's heart in his hand shone brightly. Take care, your highness. Following a burst of brilliant blue light, Lu Yuan's figure suddenly disappeared from the room. Heaven Do Competition Zone, Final Soul Master Tournament. In the resting area of Division A, today's competition is over. What do you guys think? Lu Yuan asked softly as he looked at the crowd in front of him. Although we won, I still feel a little uncomfortable. These students from the botany department really have some tricks up their sleeves. Their control skills are quite strong. Although they're all girls, their combat power is quite strong. Ling Wei's voice rang out. Qinsheng, what do you think? Lu Yuan asked. It's just as Ling Wei said. Although the Plant Academy team isn't as strong as the Thunder Academy team, their methods are rather strange and difficult to deal with. If Chiao hadn't forcefully broken through their control this time, it would have been difficult for us to win. Fu Qinsheng said. Yes, I saw Chiao's performance today. Little Chiao has improved a lot. Lu Yuan wasn't stingy with his praise for Wang Xiao. Wang Xiao was elated after being singled out and praised by Lu Yuan. There was a sweet smile on her face as she hugged Lu Yuan's left hand tightly and leaned against Lu Yuan's shoulder. This girl is becoming more and more clingy to her brother, Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled as he rubbed Wang Xiao's head. He said, the opponent for the next round is out. It's the Elephant Academy. The Elephant Academy? Fu Qinsheng's eyes narrowed as she said, if I remember correctly, the Elephant Academy should be supported by the Elephant Academy. The captain of the Elephant Academy team is called Huyin Li. From what I know, the Elephant Academy seems to be quite close to the Martial Soul Palace. In other words, they follow the Martial Soul Palace's lead. The Martial Soul Palace had some conflict with the Dragon King Hall 2 days ago. This competition might be a good opportunity for them to vent their anger. Qinsheng is right. The Martial Soul Palace secretly targeted the Dragon King Hall's team and injured so many people. This time, we could take revenge on the Elephant Academy. Ling Wei continued after Fu Qinsheng finished speaking. Well, our Dragon King Palace can't take this lying down. We have to get back our face. Even Duge Yin, who had been quiet all the time, expressed her opinion. What do you think, Xiao? Lu Yuan looked at Wang Xiao and laughed softly. Xiao thinks that Brother Qinsheng and Sister Yin are right. Those who dare to bully the Dragon King Hall should be prepared to be beaten up. This time, Xiao will beat them all up. Wang Xiao clenched her little fists and said with a cute look on her face. Hee. Lu Yuan was amused by Wang Xiao's cute look. He pinched her pink cheeks and turned around to look at Zhu Zhuqing, who was on his right. The two of them nodded at the same time. Zhuqing and I have already discussed it. This time, the two of you don't have to fight against the Elephant Academy. Zhuqing and I are enough. Lu Yuan smiled. What? Captain, Vice Captain, both of you are going to fight together? The crowd exclaimed at the same time. These two immortals are going to fight together? Yes, the two of us feel that there is no need to hide. This time, let's amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and show them the strength of the Heavenly Star Academy. Lu Yuan smiled. Captain, I think they might be scared by you. Ling Wei said faintly. Scared? I don't think so. I won't release my martial soul. But this time, Zhu Qing is really going to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Lu Yuan smiled and looked at Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing and Lu Yuan looked at each other, and there was a touch of gentleness in her eyes. She would not forget who she owed her current achievements to. Of course, Vice Captain's 5 soul rings will definitely scare a lot of people. It's a pity that we have never seen the Captain Soul Ring combination, because we can't even force you to release your martial soul. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Ling Wei immediately said, but there was a trace of frustration in his tone. They couldn't even force out Lu Yuan's martial soul. It was indeed a little frustrating. Lu Yuan's strength really made them feel powerless. You'll have a chance to see my soul ring combination in the future. Lu Yuan laughed softly. His soul ring combination would be released one day, but it would not be in the qualifiers or the promotion round. This was just a small matter. He would release his martial soul in the finals. Only in the finals would it be a little more interesting. Well, that's about it. You have competed so many times. Have a good rest. Tomorrow, wait to see my match with your vice-captain. Lu Yuan said. I think tomorrow's match will be very interesting. Ling Wei said. Hearing Ling Wei's words, everyone couldn't help but nod. Chapter 577. The next day, early morning, the spectators in Group A were already seated. Since the start of the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament, there had been a sea of people almost every day. Among the four main groups, Group A had the most spectators and was the most popular. This was because the Heavenly Star Academy had been in Group A since the start of the tournament. This was something that the other three groups couldn't compare to. Every time a tournament was held, the spectator stand in Group A were always full. There were also many academy teams gathered in the spectator stands, trying to gather information on the Heavenly Star Academy and think of ways to counterbalance them. It was a pity that the Heavenly Star Academy had yet to suffer a defeat. Today, Group A seemed to be especially lively. The VIP area, which was usually empty, was filled with many people today. Even the Snowy Knight Emperor, who had only appeared once during the opening ceremony, was in the VIP area. This made the spectators even more excited. It seemed that today's tournament wasn't going to be simple. Welcome everyone to the 11th round of the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament. Today's first match is about to begin. The two sides of the competition are our ever-victorious Heavenly Star Battle Team and the Elephant Armor Academy Battle Team. Will our Heavenly Star Battle Team be able to crush them all the time, or will the Elephant Armor Academy Battle Team be able to create a miracle and win this competition? Let's wait and see. Now, let's welcome the Heavenly Star Academy and the Weaver Academy. The host's loud voice rang out, and the two teams in the resting area entered the arena. The first team to enter the arena is our Heavenly Star Academy. Walking in front is the captain of the Heavenly Star Academy, Lu Yuan. He's also the Emperor Dragon who set the record for being the fastest to obtain the Purple Gold Soul Fighting Badge. He's very strong, but it's a pity that he hasn't appeared until now. Is it because his opponents are too weak that our Emperor Dragon doesn't have the desire to fight? I really hope to see our Emperor Dragon's exciting performance on the arena one day. I think the spectators are looking forward to it as well. Right? Yes. As soon as the host's voice fell, the audience's thunderous roar could be heard. Emperor Dragon, Emperor Dragon, Emperor Dragon. Seeing Lu Yuan's figure, the old fans couldn't help but shout crazily. The cheers are so loud. It seems like our Imperial Dragon contestant is very popular. The host faintly smiled and then said, walking behind Huang Long is the vice captain of the Heavenly Star Academy, Zhu Zhuqing. Her strength is also a mystery, and she has never been on the stage before, but as the vice captain, her strength must be very strong, and I hope to see her wonderful performance. And behind Zhu Zhuqing is Fu Qinsheng, whom everyone has seen many times. His mental control is superb, and his performance on the competition stage is also very eye-catching. As the commander, he has led the Heavenly Star Battle Team to victory many times. His performance has convinced all of you, hasn't it? The host asked again. Yes. Another earth-shaking voice rang out. Fu Qinsheng. Fu Qinsheng. After 10 rounds of the preliminaries, Fu Qinsheng's performance had also convinced the spectators. Therefore, he had many fans now. She's here. She's here. Behind Fu Qinsheng is our goddess of war, Wang Xiao-er. Wang Xiao-er's performance has been very eye-catching, and she has performed very bravely in many of the competitions. She has been loved by many spectators, and those who like to support Wang Xiao-er, please shout your support, the host said excitedly. Wang Xiao-er, Wang Xiao-er, Wang Xiao-er. The spectators in the stadium shouted crazily. Right now, Wang Xiao-er had many supporters, even more than Lu Yuan. This was because even though Lu Yuan was strong, he had never been on stage. However, Wang Xiao-er was different. Her performance had convinced the spectators, and she was also as beautiful as a fairy. It was very normal for her to receive such support. It seems like Xiao-er is very popular, Zhu Zhuqing said softly to Lu Yuan as she walked on the stage. Indeed, Zhou should be the most popular person in our team, Lu Yuan said softly with a smile. You're right, Zhu Zhuqing said with a smile. The host continued to introduce the various members of the Heavenly Star Battle team. At this point, Lu Yuan and the rest had already arrived at the waiting area. The host also started to introduce the Leopardia Academy. Next up is the Leopardia Academy. The one walking in front is their captain, Huyin Li. The host's voice sounded, and he introduced all the members of the Leopardia Academy. Finally, he concluded with a sentence. These are all the contestants from the Leopardia Academy. The Leopardia Academy is indeed a strong and powerful team. Even when facing the Heavenly Star Battle team, they're still full of confidence. Can they really create a miracle and defeat the Heavenly Star Battle team? Let's wait and see. After he finished speaking, the host stopped. After entering the arena, there was half an hour to prepare. The competition would only begin half an hour later. What's wrong with this host? Does he know how to speak? He actually said that Ali and the rest can only defeat the Heavenly Star Battle team if they create a miracle. With Ali's strength, defeating the Heavenly Star Battle team is more than enough. It won't take much effort at all. In the VIP area, Huyin Jun said unhappily. When he mentioned the Leopardia Academy, his tone was full of confidence. The ignorant are fearless. Don't you know what kind of trash you are? Don't you have any self-awareness? Just as Huyin Jun finished speaking, Douluo Bo's voice sounded. Douluo Bo, what do you mean by that? Huyin Jun asked unhappily. On the surface, I'm saying that the Leopardia Academy is trash. You want to defeat the Heavenly Star Battle team? I think that in less than a minute, the entire Leopardia Academy will be eliminated. Douluo Bo said plainly, but his tone was full of disdain. Douluo Bo, do you want to fight? Huyin Jun had a bad temper. After being ridiculed by Douluo Bo, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He clenched his fists and wanted to fight. With just you. Looking at Huyin Jun, Douluo Bo shook his head disdainfully. A mere 8 soul rings. This old man doesn't even have the desire to fight. The current Douluo Bo was not the original Douluo Bo. He had condensed a poison pill and reached rank 93. After a year of cultivation, coupled with the immortal grass that Lu Yuan had given him, his soul power had risen to rank 94. He was no longer the weakest title Douluo. Huyin Jun was only a soul Douluo. Douluo Bo didn't put such trash in his eyes. Chapter 578. Douluo Bo, you've gone too far. Huyin Jun stood up and clenched his fists. He was furious. Huyin Jun was only a soul Douluo and couldn't compare to other title Douluo. However, he wasn't afraid of Douluo Bo. Huyin Jun still dared to fight Douluo Bo, who was known as the weakest title Douluo. After all, he was the sect leader of the Elephantine sect, one of the 4 lower sections. His abilities weren't ordinary. However, what he didn't know was that Douluo Bo's abilities weren't ordinary. He had formed his poison pill and was at rank 94. Huyin Jun couldn't compare to him anymore. Even the Frenzy Rhino Douluo wasn't Douluo Bo's match now. Do you want to fight? Although I don't have any desire to fight, I can fulfill your request if you're looking for a fight. Douluo Bo chuckled coldly. Huyin Jun clenched his fists. It seemed like he really wanted to fight Douluo Bo one-on-one. Sakas, who had been silent all this while, stopped him when he saw this. Sakas, why are you stopping me? Huyin Jun was a little angry as he questioned Sakas. Sakas only replied to Huyin Jun's anger. He's an elder of the Dragon King Palace now. He's no longer the Douluo Bo of the past. The Dragon King Palace? Huyin Jun calmed down when he heard this. The Dragon King Palace was very powerful now. In particular, the Dragon Emperor Douluo, Long Xiaoyao, was very intimidating. According to what Huyin Jun knew, even the Martial Soul Palace was afraid of Long Xiaoyao. For example, the Martial Soul Palace didn't do anything when Sakas was beaten up. After all, he's an ultimate Douluo. He's very intimidating. Huyin Jun couldn't help but sigh when he thought of this. His Elephantine sect couldn't afford to offend the Dragon King Palace. As for the martial soul palace, they wouldn't offend an ultimate Douluo unless they went to war. Therefore, he had to restrain himself for now. He would take revenge in the future when he had the chance. However, Douluo had really benefited from this. Hu Yanjun thought to himself indignantly. But he sat down again. Ha! Sokka's, it seems like you've become a lot more obedient after being beaten up by the Dragon Emperor Douluo. Douluo couldn't help but mock Sokka's as he stopped Hu Yanjun. He didn't have a good relationship with the Martial Soul Palace to begin with, and this time, Lu Yuan did the design behind his back. He really thought that the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace were going against each other. Therefore, the sarcasm in his tone was quite genuine and came from his heart. If it was in the past, he would not have dared to go against the Martial Soul Palace. After all, although he was not afraid of death, he still had to take care of his granddaughter, Douluo. However, now that he had joined the Dragon King Palace, he was not worried at all. He just mocked Sokka's. After hearing Douluo's words, Sokka's couldn't help but turn black. He knew that the Dragon King Palace belonged to the Holy Sun, and he also knew that everything was part of the Holy Sun's plan. He had collaborated with him to put on a show for the Snowy Night Emperor and the others. However, after being mocked by Douluo, and looking at Douluo's despicable old face that was smiling like a chrysanthemum, Sokka's was still furious. Although he wanted to flare up, he still remembered Lu Yuan's words. He still had to put on this show, so he had to endure it for the time being. Sokka's decided that when the Holy Sun's identity was completely revealed in the future, and he no longer had to hide it, he would definitely settle the score with Douluo today. Sokka's snorted, and his face was filled with displeasure. However, he didn't get into a conflict with Douluo. Instead, he sat down quietly. Douluo's smile became even wider when he saw this scene. At the side, the Snowy Night Emperor and Ning Fengji couldn't help but smile when they saw how the two of them were like fire and water. The fact that the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace were at odds with each other was really a good thing for them. Sokka's is indeed a pig-like opponent. This wave of assistance is really great. It has pushed the Dragon King Palace to our side. This way it will be much easier for us to rope them in. Sokka's, who sat down with a black face, snorted in disdain when he saw the smug Douluo, the smiling Snowy Night Emperor, and Ning Fengji. A bunch of fools who have been kept in the dark. You may be smug now, but you don't know that you are all just chess pieces in the palm of the Holy Sun's hand. When you find out the truth, you will definitely be dumbfounded. Especially you, old fogey, Snowy Night Emperor. You probably won't even know how you died in the future. Not only that, but when the Holy Sun and Miss Share take over the entire Heaven Do Empire, your royal family will also be wiped out. So all you have to do now is laugh. If you laugh now, at most I will lose some face. When I laugh, you will already be dead. With this thought in mind, Sokka's felt a lot more comfortable. He also ignored the mocking expressions on their faces. However, his face was still as smelly as a dead man's. There's nothing I can do about it. His Highness, the Saint, has instructed me to perform well. I must let His Highness know that my acting skills are also top-notch. Who knows, maybe His Highness, the Holy Sun, will bestow upon me 2 more longevity pills, Salus thought happily. In the VIP area, Sokka's thoughts were very exciting. Below the stage, Lu Yuan and the others were already prepared. Half an hour was not a long time, and it passed by very quickly. Hello, everyone. The preparation time is over. The match is about to begin. Next, let us invite the contestants from both sides to the stage. The host's voice sounded. It has finally begun. I wonder if the Heavenly Star Academy will change their contestants this time? Huo Wushuang's voice sounded in the spectator area. They probably won't. After all, the Elephant Academy's strength is only SOSO. They are not as strong as the Thunder Academy. Although Huyan Li and the others are full of confidence, I don't think they will win, Shui Bing'er, who had long, ice-blue hair, said. What you said makes sense. I just don't know where Huyan Li got his confidence from. Huo Wushuang scratched his head, puzzled. The Elephant Academy was not just one person who was so confident, but all the members were. He was really puzzled. Where did these people's confidence come from? Could it be that he had misjudged them? Did Huyan Li and the others really have a powerful trump card? At this time, Feng Xiaotian, who had been silent all this time, touched his chin and said softly, "There's a rumor that Huyan Jun of the Elephant Academy bought a soul bone some time ago. It seems that Huyan Li has absorbed it." Soul bone. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Could this be the source of Huyan Li's confidence? They can't be so stupid, right? Do they think that a soul bone can turn the tide and make a desperate counterattack? Shui Yu's charming voice sounded. Chapter 579. Maybe they're just so naive. Feng Xiaotian said. Not maybe. Didn't I say that they are not naive, but stupid, idiots who only grow muscles but not brains? Fire Dance lightly said. Yes, Sister Fire Dance is right. They are a group of idiots. Hearing the words of Fire Dance, Feng Xiaotian quickly echoed, with a trace of flattery in his tone. Bah bootlicker. Seeing the performance of Feng Xiaotian, Shui Yuer could not help but spit. The dignified captain of the Godwin Academy was actually acting like a bootlicker for this tomboy Fire Dance. He really had no eyesight. Bootlicker, bootlicker, bootlicker until there is nothing left. Shui Yuer's voice was very small, similar to a whisper. Feng Xiaotian and the others were separated by a certain distance, and their attention was focused on the ring not far away, so they did not hear Shui Yuer's words. But Shui Bing, who was beside her, heard it, and could not help but glare at Shui Yuer. Being glared at by Shui Bing, Shui Yuer could not help but stick out her tongue, with a cute expression on her face. Seeing this, Shui Bing could not help but shake her head, this younger sister of hers. Shui Yuer opened her ice blue big eyes, and looked at the ring not far away. With her long eyelashes fluttering, she said in a crisp voice, "I don't know when Prince Charming will appear. I really want to see Prince Charming's performance." After saying that, her face was full of expectation. Hearing this, Shui Binger could not help but gently shake her head. This younger sister of hers still had the nerve to say that Feng Xiaotian was a bootlicker, and you were a love-struck fool. Don't call the pot calling the kettle black. Who is better than the other? But after listening to Shui Yuer's words, Shui Bing's face could not help but reveal a trace of expectation. In fact, she was also very curious about Lu Yuan's current strength. But she did not know when this guy would appear. Did he have to wait until the match against the Blazing Fire Academy? Shui Bing secretly thought and looked at Lu Yuan and the others who were not far away in the waiting area. It's time to go on stage. Hearing the host's voice, Lu Yuan stretched his waist and looked at Zhu Zhuqing beside him, and both of them nodded. "Captain, do your best." Ling Wei clenched his fists and said loudly, "What are you talking about? Captain needs to be cheered on? I think this match will end in at most 1 minute." Ning Rongrong immediately retorted after hearing Ling Wei's words. She had a cheerful smile on her face. Over the past few days, perhaps because Lu Yuan's attitude towards her had improved a lot, her mood had always been very good. Her entire person had become much more cheerful, and there was a hint of playfulness and cuteness to her. "Sister Rongrong, you're wrong. Chio thinks that brother can finish in half a minute." Wang Chio disagreed with Ning Rongrong's opinion. She worshipped Lu Yuan the most blindly. She felt that her brother was omnipotent. Half a minute was enough to defeat a mere Elephant Academy. He didn't need a minute at all. Yes, Chio is right. Sister Rongrong is wrong. Half a minute is enough. After hearing Wang Chio's words, Ning Rongrong stroked her chin and pondered for a while. She actually nodded in agreement. After hearing their words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. How much do these guys look down on the Elephant Academy? It seems like they don't see the Elephant Academy as a threat at all. However, when Lu Yuan thought about it carefully, it seemed like he didn't see them as a threat either. It seemed like these guys had really learned something from him after hanging out with him for so long. Other things aside, their horizons were getting higher and higher. After thinking for a while, Lu Yuan said softly to Zhu Zhuqing, "Let's go, Zhuqing." After thinking for a while, he stood up. "Yes." Zhu Zhuqing acknowledged and stood up as well. She followed behind Lu Yuan, and the two of them walk towards the arena at the same time. The first team to go up is our Elephant Academy. They're moving very quickly, and they're already in formation. It seems like the Elephant Academy is taking this competition very seriously. It's no wonder. After all, their opponent is the Heavenly Star Academy. The Heavenly Star Academy hasn't lost a single match since the start of the competition. The host said loudly, "Well, let's take a look at the contestants of the Heavenly Star Academy. Their contestant this time is... Oh my God!" At this point, the host's voice suddenly paused, and then he exclaimed, "What did I just see? Our contestant Huang Long and Zhu Zhuqing from the Heavenly Star Academy are going up. This is the first time they've appeared in the qualifiers. Can we finally see their wonderful performance today?" There was a trace of excitement in the host's voice. Suddenly, his voice paused again and then rose a few notches. Why did the Heavenly Star Academy only send contestant Huang Long and Zhu Zhuqing this time? Do they want to deal with the Elephant Academy with just the two of them? As soon as the host's voice fell, the figures of Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing appeared on the arena. Lu Yuan had his hands slightly behind his back, and his face was calm. He looked at the Elephant Academy opposite him without the slightest fluctuation in his eyes, as if he had completely ignored them. Beside him, Zhu Zhuqing's face was cold, and there seemed to be no warmth in her eyes. She looked like a stranger who didn't want to get close to her. As soon as the two of them appeared, they didn't do anything. Just the aura they exuded attracted the attention of the audience. My Prince Charming, he's on the arena? Shueyu rubbed her big blue eyes. She thought she was seeing things. After rubbing her eyes, she looked again. Lu Yuan's figure was still standing on the arena. "Sister, my Prince Charming is really on the arena." Shueyu pulled Shui Bing's sleeve, and there was a trace of excitement on her face. It couldn't be so accurate. She had just said that she wanted to see her Prince Charming on the arena, and he really did. This surprise was too big, wasn't it? Shueyu couldn't help but put her hands on her chest, and her big eyes stared at the arena without blinking. Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing, the two of them who have been hiding their strength all this while, have both stepped up. Moreover, it's only the two of them. Does this mean that they want to fight 7 against 2? Feng Xiaodian rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully, "It seems so," but Wu Shuang said softly. "This guy is still as arrogant as ever." Looking at Lu Yuan, who had his hands behind his back, Huowu muttered to herself. This scene reminded her of the scene in Heavendoe Imperial Academy. At that time, Lu Yuan was fighting 1 against 7, and now there was only one more person, Zhu Zhuqing. "Let me see how strong you are now," Huowu said softly. "Yeah, Palace Lord Lu is actually going to fight personally today, and 2 against 7. Looking at the two people on the arena, Snowy Night Emperor, who was in the VIP area, couldn't help but ask with interest. "I heard that Palace Lord Lu didn't plan to fight personally, but when he heard that the opponent was Team Wang Jia, he decided to fight at the last minute. He said that he wanted to learn from Team Wang Jia." Ning Fengji's tone carried a trace of deep meaning. After hearing Ning Fengji's words, Snowy Night Emperor revealed a faint smile as he understood what Ning Fengji meant. Dragon King Palace was unhappy with Martial Soul Palace and wanted to seek revenge in today's match. That was why Lu Yuan, the Palace Lord, was going to fight personally. But why was Snowy Night Emperor so happy when he saw this scene? It definitely wasn't because the conflict between Dragon King Palace and Martial Soul Palace was getting deeper and deeper. Yes, it definitely wasn't. The Emperor of Snowy Night thought to himself, but he couldn't stop the smile from spreading across his face. Chapter 580. After hearing Ning Fengji's words, Hu Yinjin couldn't help but snort. No matter how strong the Dragon King Hall is, it's impossible for the two of them to defeat Li's team of 7. He was still confident in Hu Yinli. Although he was definitely not as strong as Lu Yuan, his confidence in defeating the Heavenly Star team was built on the assumption that Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing wouldn't make a move. If Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing were to replace Jing Ling and Jiang Zhu, with all 7 members of the Celestial Star Battle team present, Hu Yinjin wouldn't dare to say that the Wang Jia Academy battle team would win. After all, he was also a contrador and had a rough estimate of the strength of both sides. He wasn't as blindly confident as Hu Yinli. However, with only Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing, Hu Yinli didn't believe that they would be strong enough to defeat Li's team of 7. Unless it was the golden generation from the martial Soul Palace, it wouldn't be possible. After all, they were the most famous geniuses on the continent. However, there were only 3 members of the golden generation from the martial Soul Palace. The only one above them was the legendary Holy Son from the martial Soul Palace, who was the most talented person in the Douluo continent. Although Lu Yuan didn't look simple, and he was the Dragon King Hall's Hall Master, he didn't look very old. Even if his talent was extraordinary, he could only be compared to the golden generation. He could be considered a Soul King. As for Zhu Zhuqing, Hu Yinjun didn't believe that she could be very strong. At most, she was a Soul Ancestor, a Soul King and a Soul Ancestor. If the two of them teamed up, it would be very difficult for them to defeat Ali's team. After all, Ali still had a trump card. Hu Yinjun had always believed in the power of the Soul Bone. He had spent a lot of money to buy it. With it, Ali would be like a tiger that had grown wings. The Weaver Academy had a high chance of winning this match. It was Lu Yuan's fault for being too arrogant. He actually dared to fight 2 against 7. Let's give him a crushing defeat and tell him not to be too arrogant. It's better to keep a low profile. Hu Yinjun thought to himself, the ignorant are truly fearless. While Hu Yinjun was still thinking, Douluo's voice rang out and immediately woke Hu Yinjun up from his thoughts. Douluo, what do you mean? Do you think I'm wrong? Hu Yinjun's eyes widened as he looked at Douluo. He didn't argue with him just now. But this guy came out to cause trouble again? You're not just wrong. That's bullshit *T. Just you wait. If this match goes on for more than a minute and you still haven't lost, I'll eat this chair in front of me on the spot, Douluo said solemnly. Oh, Elder Douluo, are you that confident in Palace Master Lu? Hearing Douluo's words, the Snowy Night Emperor couldn't help but ask curiously. That's right. Our Palace Master's strength is definitely beyond your imagination. All of you better open your eyes and take a good look. Hu Yinli and the others are simply no match for him. Douluo waved his hand and said indifferently. It seemed like he didn't take Hu Yinli and the others seriously at all. Is Palace Master Lu that strong? The Snowy Night Emperor couldn't help but look at Ning Fengji with a questioning look in his eyes. In response to the Snowy Night Emperor's question, Ning Fengji nodded slightly and said, in my opinion, Palace Master Lu is the number 1 person in the entire Douluo continent's younger generation. His strength is beyond imagination. Oh, hearing Ning Fengji give such a high evaluation, the Snowy Night Emperor couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise in his eyes. Even with Ning Fengji's steadiness, he actually praised Lu Yuan as the number 1 person in the younger generation. Just how terrifying was Lu Yuan's strength? Just as the Snowy Night Emperor was astonished, Hu Yinjun couldn't help but laugh. He said, Sect Master Ning, don't brag blindly. Number 1 person in the younger generation? The real number 1 person in the younger generation is the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Palace. He's the true genius of the entire Douluo continent. This Lu Yuan is still far from that. Ning Fengji chuckled and didn't argue with Hu Yinjun. On the other hand, Douluo glanced at Hu Yinjun with disdain in his eyes. It seemed like he was saying that Hu Yinjun was ignorant. He knew how powerful Lu Yuan was, and he didn't think that there was anyone who was more talented and stronger than Lu Yuan, who was the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Palace. How could he be compared to his palace master? As for Sokka's, he had a strange expression on his face. He really wanted to know what kind of expression these people would have when they found out that the Palace Master of the Dragon King Palace and the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Palace were the same person. However, when he thought about it, it should be very interesting. On the stage, Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing stood slightly upright. It was just the 2 of them, but the aura they gave off made Hu Yinli and the others not dare to underestimate them. The people below the stage might not be able to feel the pressure in the air, but Huyen Li and the others could clearly feel it. They originally wanted to say something sarcastic, but after sensing the aura from Lu Yuan and Douluo, they all swallowed their words. Contestant Lu Yuan, are you going to fight against the entire Wang Jia Academy team with just the two of you? The host's voice carried a trace of inquiry. After all, 2 against 7 was still too shocking, so the host wanted to confirm it with Lu Yuan. Facing the host's question, Lu Yuan nodded slightly and said softly, "Yes, let's begin." "Okay." After receiving an accurate answer from Lu Yuan, the host nodded and said loudly, "We just received an accurate answer from contestant Lu Yuan. This match will be between contestant Lu Yuan and contestant Zhu Zhuqing against the Wang Jia Academy team. Therefore, I hereby announce that the 11th round of the qualifiers, the match between the Heavenly Star Academy team and the Wang Jia Academy team, officially begins." As soon as the host's voice fell, the crowd was immediately excited. All the spectators were enthusiastic. 1 against 7, they were very much looking forward to it. "Brothers, activate your soul rings," Hu Yanli shouted, and the students of the Wang Jia Academy team activated their soul rings one after another. Suddenly, yellow and purple lights flashed on the stage. Huyen Li and the 2 disciples beside him had 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings appear on their bodies at the same time. The remaining 4 people had 2 yellow and 1 purple soul rings on their bodies. 3 soul ancestors and 4 soul elders. This was the strength of the Wang Jia Academy team. The members of the Wang Jia Academy team were all burly men. Each of them was more than 2 meters tall and weighed more than 300 kilograms. When the 7 of them stood together, they looked like 7 mountains of flesh. Not to mention other things, their deterrence was not bad. It was a bit intimidating. Chapter 581. Huyen Li took a step forward and cupped his fists. He had changed quite a bit after the martial soul possession. If Huyen Li's original appearance could be described as somewhat simple and honest, then the current Huyen Li, with his martial soul possession, looked somewhat ferocious. His body was filled with explosive muscles, and there was a layer of dark golden cuticle on his skin that shone with a metallic luster. What was even more unique was that his nose had also extended, becoming very long. At the same time, his upper lip had turned up, and his 2 fangs had grown by more than a foot. This was how the diamond mammoth martial soul possession of the elephant armor sect looked like. Huyen Li wasn't the only one. The rest of the elephant armor sect disciples looked the same. Their appearance after being possessed by their martial soul was quite intimidating. Captain of the Elephant Armor Academy, Huyen Li, martial soul diamond mammoth. Level 43 defense type battle soul ancestor. Huyen Li looked at Lu Yuan seriously. This man was simply standing there, but he gave off an unimaginable amount of pressure. It was as if there was something in him that could crush him. All right, there's no need to say so much. Let's begin. Lu Yuan had been wanting to complain about Huyen Li's behavior of reporting their levels for a long time. At the beginning, Lu Yuan didn't think much of it. However, he felt that it was silly to report one's level before the start of the match. What was the point of reporting one's level? It was meaningless, and it was a waste of time. Hence, Lu Yuan didn't bother with Huyen Li. Zhuqing. Lu Yuan called out softly, and his voice was heard. Zhuqing nodded. Then, she took 2 steps forward. The imposing aura on her body suddenly rose. A mass of black light appeared on Zhu Zhuqing's body. Then, it instantly attached itself to her body. Meow. With a loud meow, Zhu Zhuqing's 2 jade-like hands grew long and sharp claws at the same time. Her pair of ears also became small and cute, fluffy cat ears. Behind her, a thin and long black tail swayed in the air. Behind her, a huge black cat figure appeared. At the same time, Zhu Zhuqing's originally clear black and white eyes turned into a clear blue like sapphires, exuding a noble aura. Beneath Zhu Zhuqing's body, 5 soul rings, yellow, purple, black, and black, slowly rose up. A powerful pressure emanated from Zhu Zhuqing's body towards Huyen Li and the others. Zhu Zhuqing, Vice Captain of the Heavenly Star Battle Team. Martial Soul, 9 Lives Links. Level 52 Agility System, Soul King. Zhu Zhuqing's cold voice sounded as she reported her level. After all, Lu Yuan didn't care about these rules because Lu Yuan was arrogant and carefree. He didn't care about these rules. However, Zhu Zhuqing was from a noble family and had a marriage agreement with the Star Luo royal family since she was young. She understood these rules. Since Hu Yin, Li reported his level. She had to report her level as a sign of respect according to the rules of the world of Soul Masters. Since Lu Yuan didn't report his level, Zhu Zhuqing could only do it herself. After all, she couldn't be rude in public. As Lu Yuan's woman, she would help Lu Yuan settle things that Lu Yuan didn't notice. After hearing Zhu Zhuqing report her level, Lu Yuan couldn't help but look at her. He smiled and shook his head. He instantly understood what she meant. She was afraid that others would say that the Heavenly Star Battle Team didn't know their manners, so she did this. This girl was indeed very sensible. On the other hand, he had neglected many things because of his temper. Level 52, Soul King. 10,000 years of 4th Soul Rings. Zhu Zhuqing is a Soul King. Just as Lu Yuan was sighing at Zhu Zhuqing's sensibility, there were many exclamations. Zhu Zhuqing is actually a Soul King? Seeing the 5 soul rings on Zhu Zhuqing's body, the faces of the various teams in the viewing area surged with intense shock. Zhu Zhuqing, the vice captain of the Heavenly Star Academy's team, was actually a Soul King. This news had greatly exceeded their expectations. Not only a Soul King, but a 10,000 years of 4th Soul Ring Soul King. Huo Wu clenched her fist, a trace of unwillingness in her eyes. She didn't expect the Heavenly Star Academy to be so strong. With such an opponent, could the Blazing Fire Academy still win? No matter how competitive she was, she couldn't help but admit that their Blazing Fire Academy simply couldn't win against a team with a Soul King. Moreover, there was still that person. A 10,000 years of 4th Soul Rings Soul King? Huo Wushuang and Feng Xiaotian glanced at each other. Both of them could see the shock in each other's eyes. Zhu Zhuqing wasn't old. She was definitely younger than them. After all, there was still a trace of immaturity on her face. She was definitely younger than Zhu Zhuqing. But even so, she had already reached the Soul King rank. This kind of talent really made people's hearts tremble. Right? If Zhu Zhuqing is a Soul King, then what about Prince Charming? He's the captain. His strength is definitely stronger than Zhu Zhuqing's. Just when everyone was shocked by Zhu Zhuqing's rank, Shui Yuer's crisp voice rang out. His words instantly caused everyone to fall silent. If Zhu Zhuqing is a Soul King, then Lu Yuan must be at least a Soul King. Shui Yu stared at the stage with a trace of complexity in her eyes. She finally knew why Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing dared to go up against the 7 people from the Leopardia Academy. After all, 2 existences that were at least Soul Kings. Wouldn't it be easy for them to beat the Leopardia Academy's team? They're really too strong. If I were to meet them, I'd directly forfeit the qualifiers. Feng Xiaoyan's voice rang out. Hearing Feng Xiaoyan's unambitious words, the people present not only didn't laugh at him, but instead nodded in deep agreement. Losing 2 matches in the qualifiers was actually not a big deal, as long as they could enter the qualifiers. Facing an opponent like the Heavenly Star Academy, losing was certain. So instead of fighting and exposing more of their strength to the other teams, it was better to just admit defeat. On the contrary, they could hide their strength and prepare for the qualifiers. To be honest, it wasn't only Feng Xiaotian, but even Shui Yuer and the others had such thoughts. Huo Wushuang naturally had such thoughts as well, but he looked at Huo Wu and sighed slightly. His sister and Lu Yuan had already made an appointment, so this match had to be fought. But when he thought of facing a lineup of 2 Soul Kings and 5 Soul Ancestors, Huo Wushuang couldn't help but tremble in his heart. Their Blazing Fire Academy would definitely lose completely in such a battle. Sister, you're cheating your brother with your strength. I'm really not interested in this kind of battle where you're destined to be beaten. Huo Wushuang couldn't help but shake his head and sigh deeply. Chapter 582. Haha. In the VIP seats, Douluo burst into laughter and turned to Huyin-jun. Old, stupid elephant, do you still think you can win? Hee hee, a 10,000-year soul king with 4 rings. Isn't that surprising enough? Douluo's face was full of smiles. His green eyes looked straight at Huyin-jun, and his tone carried a hint of pride. Hearing this, Huyin-jun's face stiffened. He really didn't expect that Zhu Zhuqing would be a soul king, and a 10,000-year soul king with 4 rings. Damn it. How could such a genius appear in Heavenly Star Academy? Even in the Golden Generation, only Hulina could compare to her. The other 2 were far from her. It seemed that Ali and the others were really doomed today. The Snowy Night Emperor's face also had a trace of surprise. He looked at Ning Fengji and asked, did Sect Master Ning already know that this contestant Zhu Zhuqing is also a soul king, and a 10,000-year soul king with 4 rings? Hearing this, Ning Fengji nodded gently and said, this Ning knows a little about this contestant Zhu Zhuqing's strength. She's indeed a soul king. In fact, she is a pair with Dragon King Palace's Hall Master Lu. I heard from my daughter that Hall Master Lu is also a soul king, but his rank is a little high. He is a rank 58 soul king. Rank 58 soul king? Hearing Ning Fengji's words, the Snowy Night Emperor and Huyin-jun's faces changed at the same time. The Snowy Night Emperor was shocked, and his thoughts of roping in Lu Yuan became even stronger. Huyin-jun was horrified. Such a young rank 58 soul king. This kind of talent was really a little scary. Oh no. Oh no. Ali and the others are finished. They really can't see any hope of winning. Huyin-jun's face completely darkened. How is it? Are you scared by my hallmaster's rank? Douluo smiled and pointed to the chair in front of him. I'll say it again. If your Elephant Armor Academy doesn't lose in a minute, I'll eat this chair on the spot. Hearing Douluo's words, Huyin-jun's face, which was originally ugly, became even uglier, as if he was constipated. Looking at Huyin-jun's appearance, Douluo couldn't help laughing once more. Huyin-jun was left speechless, and he felt very comfortable in his heart. He turned around slightly and cast his gaze towards the arena. He still wanted to see the heroic performance of his palace master. On the stage, Lu Yuan still had his hand behind his back. Beside him, Zhu Zhuqing had already possessed her martial soul. 5 bright soul rings rippled beneath her body, and a powerful aura swept out. Huyin stared at Zhu Zhuqing's soul king from across the 2 of them. His face was initially filled with astonishment, but he slowly recollected himself. His eyes were filled with an unprecedented seriousness. Are you still not going to release your martial soul? Although he was shocked by Zhu Zhuqing's strength as a soul king, Huyin Li's gaze was still focused on Lu Yuan. Although Lu Yuan hadn't released his martial soul, the pressure he brought was even greater than Zhu Zhuqing's. Therefore, Huyin Li didn't dare to underestimate him. There's no need to release your martial spirit. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said, you can start now. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll play with you for a while. You'll regret it if you don't release your martial spirit. Huyin Li couldn't help but feel a tinge of anger in his heart after being looked down upon by Lu Yuan. No matter how strong Lu Yuan's aura was, he wanted to beat Lu Yuan up. Brothers, let's go, Huyin Li ordered. The 7 contestants from the Elephant Armor sect lined up in a row and moved towards Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing at the same time. Their bodies were already very strong. When the 7 of them lined up in a row, they were like 7 mountains of meat. They took up almost half of the circular arena's diameter, and the visual effect was a little shocking. Haha, interesting. Zhuqing, wait for me to break them up before you make your move, Lu Yuan said softly as he looked at Zhu Zhuqing. Okay, got it. Zhu Zhuqing nodded slightly, and her cold voice rang out. Then let's go. Lu Yuan chuckled. He took a slight step forward, and a cracking sound could be heard. Cracks spread out like a spiderweb from where his foot landed. Lu Yuan's figure flew out and appeared in front of Huyin Li and the rest in an instant. Hey, everyone, look over here. Lu Yuan chuckled and executed the dragon swimming steps. His body turned into a series of afterimages as he kicked 6 times at the row of mountains of meat. "Brothers, immovable mountains," Hu Yanli shouted. The 7 of them stepped on the ground at the same time and lowered their bodies. They adjusted their center of gravity and stabilized their lower bodies. Each of them weighed at least 300 pounds, and each of them had lowered their center of gravity. In addition, they were already very strong, so it would be very difficult to shake them. However, it was useless. Before Huyen Li could react, the 6 remaining contestants from the elephant armor sect were sent flying by Lu Yuan's 6 light kicks. The so-called immovable mountains was useless. Where are they? Huyen Li was stunned when he did not feel the attack that he expected. When he turned around, there was no one beside him. "They're here." As soon as his voice fell, Lu Yuan's figure suddenly appeared in front of Huyen Li. Just as Huyen Li was about to make a move, a fist lightly landed on his body. Huyen Li's body, which weighed more than 150 kilograms, was immediately sent flying and landed with his companions. TSK, what a slow reaction. Lu Yuan shook his head as he looked at the 7 contestants who were trying to get up. The Diamond Mammoth's defense was not bad, but their reaction was really slow. If he really wanted to win, he could use the dragon swimming steps and kick them out of the arena with 7 kicks. However, it would be too boring to win that way. Today's match was just a show. Hence, it was better to play for a longer time. "Why aren't you standing up? Is it comfortable lying on the ground?" Lu Yuan paused and looked at Huyen Li and the others lying on the ground, smiling faintly. Huyen Li and the rest stood up hurriedly. Their first and second soul rings lit up at the same time. Their martial souls were the same, and their soul skills were the same. Their first soul skill increased their defense, while their second soul skill increased their strength. After all, they were easily sent flying by Lu Yuan, which made them realize that Lu Yuan was very strong. Therefore, they immediately used their soul skills as soon as they came up. "Now, this is interesting." Lu Yuan smiled. He was still calm as he watched the 7 contestants from the Elephant Armor Academy activate their soul skills. He even had the time to comment. He looked very relaxed. It was as if he was not here to compete, but to play. Chapter 583. The difference is still too great. Lu Yuan is here to play. Huo Wushuang couldn't help but shake her head and sigh as she watched Lu Yuan easily send Huyen Li and the others flying. His strength has long since surpassed our imaginations. Although that move just now was short, the speed and strength Lu Yuan displayed were shocking. Those people from the Weevil Academy weighed at least 300 pounds, yet he easily sent them flying at the same time. This strength is truly frightening. Shui Bing spoke softly with a trace of melancholy in her icy blue eyes. Lu Yuan was too strong. He was so strong that she couldn't even muster up any desire to fight. She originally thought that there would be a limit to how strong Lu Yuan was, but now it seemed that the tip of the iceberg was enough to cause her to lose a great deal of confidence. "Yes, my Prince Charming is truly too strong." Shui Yuer spoke softly, her sapphire-like eyes sparkling with sparkling light. "AI, the Weevil Academy is bound to lose. Now we'll just have to see how much strength they can force out of Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing." Feng Xiaodian sighed softly. "Yes, let's continue watching." Huo Wushuang sighed and turned her gaze back to the stage. "The 4 of you go deal with Zhu Zhuqing. The 2 of you come with me. We'll deal with Lu Yuan together." On the stage, Huyen Li let out a loud shout as he led the 2 soul ancestors from Team Weathered Armor to surround Lu Yuan. The other 4 soul exalts charged towards Zhu Zhuqing. Lu Yuan didn't have the slightest reaction to Huyen Li's arrangement. It was basically impossible for 4 soul elders to deal with Zhu Zhuqing. One had to know that Zhu Zhuqing wasn't an ordinary soul king. With Zhu Qing's astonishing speed, the 4 soul exalts were going to become live targets for her. As for himself, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile when he looked at Huyen Li and the other 2 soul ancestors. Then he'd play with these 3 fellows in front of him. "Go!" Huyen Li called out. Along with the other two soul ancestors, he surrounded Lu Yuan from 3 different directions. Swaying his enormous body, he threw himself at Lu Yuan at the same time. What? Do you want to hit me? Seeing the 3 of them charging at him from 3 different directions, Lu Yuan instantly understood what they were thinking. They were trying to squeeze him like a sandwich from 3 directions. With their terrifying height and weight, if an ordinary person were to be squeezed like this, the huge pressure that would follow would be enough to make him lose his ability to fight, not to mention whether he would be injured or not. After all, the force of this impact was definitely not weak. But Lu Yuan didn't seem to care at all. Instead, he looked in Zhu Zhuqing's direction. 4 Soul Exalts were using the same method to attack Zhu Zhuqing. Should I say, as expected of a team, do they all fight in the same way? But such a small trick wouldn't be of any use against Zhu Zhuqing. Coming back to his senses, Lu Yuan looked at the 3 people charging at him. He smiled faintly and said, "Come, let me see how strong you are." A golden light flashed from his body as the golden dragon armor covered his entire body. The dazzling golden armor sparkled with a resplendent radiance that made it hard for people to open their eyes. The armor was densely covered with fiery red and icy blue cloud patterns, making the golden armor even more gorgeous. On his back, a blood-red cloak fluttered in the wind. The dazzling golden armor paired with the blood-red cloak instantly made the already extraordinarily charming Lu Yuan even more handsome. If the original immortal-like temperament was more ethereal and confident, then the current Lu Yuan was more like a god of war, with a heroic and masculine aura. Many of the female spectators' eyes lit up as they looked at Lu Yuan with a green light in their eyes. They looked as if they wanted to swallow him into their stomachs. Prince Charming is so handsome. In the spectator area, Shui Yu clasped her hands in front of her chest as she looked at Lu Yuan in his armor. Her big eyes seemed to melt as she looked at Lu Yuan. Her cherry lips were slightly opened, as if she was mumbling to herself. He is indeed very handsome. This time, Shui Bing didn't refute Shui Yu's point of view. Instead, she nodded in agreement because Lu Yuan was indeed very handsome. Cough, cough. He is indeed very handsome. But shouldn't we pay more attention to his armor? If I'm not wrong, that should be the legendary external soul bone. Feng Xiaodian coughed and said, "It is indeed an external soul bone. We saw him use it when we were in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. However, 4 years have passed, and his external soul bone has changed a lot." Huo Wushuang said, "It has changed a lot. It has obviously become stronger. This is the charm of an external soul bone. It can evolve as the owner improves, and it will never become outdated. Moreover, once it is completely integrated, it cannot be taken away. It is really a treasure. I really don't know where Lu Yuan got it. His luck is really good." Feng Xiaotian said with a trace of envy in his voice. "Yes, I am so envious." Huo Wushuang also sighed softly. He looked at Lu Yuan's golden dragon armor without blinking. He also wanted such a treasure. In the arena, Huyan Li and the other 2 were also stunned by the sudden appearance of the golden dragon armor. However, it didn't stop. The 3 of them ran, and their huge bodies crashed into Lu Yuan with heavy force. Dong! 3 terrifying mountains of flesh surrounded Lu Yuan. The 3 of them were huge. After they surrounded Lu Yuan's body couldn't be seen anymore. In the waiting area, Ning Rongrong couldn't help but exclaim when she saw this scene. "Will Obuchi be okay?" There was a trace of anxiety in her voice. Even though she knew how strong Lu Yuan was, she still couldn't help but worry when faced with such a situation. This was called worrying too much. He'll be fine. This bit of strength isn't even enough to tickle him. Wang Xiao looked at the scene in the arena and said nonchalantly. Although she was also very concerned about Lu Yuan, she knew how terrifying the golden dragon martial soul was. The strength of a body tempered by such a martial soul was beyond imagination. Lu Yuan's physique had already reached a terrifying level. He wasn't inferior to an ordinary titled Douluo. In fact, he was even slightly stronger. After all, The Titan giant ape's 100,000-year soul ring was no joke. The truth was just as Wang Qiao had said. Lu Yuan was completely fine. As he looked at the 3 mountains of flesh on his body, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "Is that it? Use more strength. I can still do it." Chapter 584. Hu Li roared when he heard Lu Yuan's words. The muscles on his body bulged, and he stomped on the ground with his thick legs. His huge body pressed down on Lu Yuan with immense strength. The other 2 soul ancestors did the same, exerting all the strength in their bodies. The 3 of them pressed down on Lu Yuan's body with all their might. Interesting. Hu Li and the other 2 were exerting their full strength to squeeze out the pressure. The combined strength of the 3 of them was probably more than 10,000 jin. 5,000 kilograms of strength wasn't considered small, but that was only for Lu Yuan. Generally speaking, soul emperors might not even have the strength of 5,000 kilograms, unless they were the type that specialized in strength. Zhao Wuji was a soul sage, but he didn't even have 40,000 kilograms of strength. He was a strength type, assault type soul sage. Hu Li and the other 2's combined strength was more than 5,000 kilograms. This number was actually not bad. In the entire Heavendo district, apart from Lu Yuan, only Wang Qiao could exert more than 5,000 kilograms of strength. After all, she had the Golden Dragon martial soul, and strength was her forte. Of course, strength wasn't the same as actual strength. However, great strength was also a terrifying weapon against enemies. For example, if Wu Wushuang or Feng Xiaotian were in the middle of Hu Li and the other 2, they would have lost their ability to fight. However, this was useless against Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan didn't feel anything when the 5,000 kilograms of strength pressed down on Lu Yuan's body. "Is this all you've got?" Lu Yuan shook his head as he looked at the 3 muscular men squeezing him. He said, "If this is all you've got, then I'm going to make a move." As he spoke, Lu Yuan's body trembled slightly. A tremendous force was released from Lu Yuan's body, and Hu Li and the other 2's mountain-like bodies were sent flying. Lu Yuan took a step forward and appeared in front of the other 2 soul ancestors in an instant. 2 kicks landed on their bodies in quick succession. The 2 soul ancestors groaned as blood flowed out from their mouths. A light kick had broken through their defenses, which had been strengthened by their soul power, and injured them. The Diamond Mammoth's defenses were extremely strong. Very few soul masters of the same rank could break through their defenses. However, their defenses were like paper to Lu Yuan. He could easily pierce through them. The 2's bodies crashed heavily onto the arena's floor. Lu Yuan didn't show any mercy because he was putting on an act. Otherwise, he would be exposed. Furthermore, he had already compensated them. Hu Li's eyes turned red when he saw that the other 2 soul ancestors had been injured. He was an impulsive person. Now that his teammates were lying on the ground, he was completely enraged. His eyes were red, and he charged towards Lu Yuan without hesitation. His 3rd soul ring lit up, and he leapt into the air like a mountain of flesh. His body flickered with a layer of purple light as he pressed down on Lu Yuan. It was his 3rd soul skill, Crushing Kill. Lu Yuan was about to take a step forward when he was faced with Hu Li's soul skill. However, he suddenly realized that he couldn't move his legs. It turned out that Crushing Kill was a soul skill that the Elephant Armor sect had researched for a long time. Once the opponent was locked on, their legs would be temporarily immobilized. They could only choose to resist. This skill was specially used to deal with agility-type soul masters who were fast. Lu Yuan immediately understood what was going on when he felt that his legs were immobilized. This type of locking was similar to another type of control. If Lu Yuan had activated his Golden Dragon War body, he would have been immune to it. However, he couldn't even use his martial soul right now, so he was being controlled. Lu Yuan didn't care that he was being controlled. However, this will be troublesome for Zhu Qing. She's an agility-type soul master and isn't very strong. I have to remind her. Lu Yuan muttered to himself. His lips moved slightly as he forced his voice into a line and transmitted it to Zhu Zhuqing, who was not far away. After receiving Lu Yuan's reminder, Zhu Zhuqing increased her speed once again. Her body turned into a series of afterimages so that they couldn't lock onto her. At the same time, she unleashed her nether shadow doppelganger along with her netherworld soul-breaking claw. 6 afterimages surrounded the 3 soul elders from the elephant armor sect and beat them up. Under Zhu Zhuqing's netherworld soul destroyer claw, the diamond mammoth's defense was strong, but it was useless. Blood splattered everywhere with a single claw. Zhu Zhuqing showed no mercy at all. Her claws were stained with blood, and Lu Yuan felt his scalp tingle. Although the elephant armor sect's disciples only suffered superficial injuries, they were still in a terrible state. Huyan Zhen furrowed his brows from time to time as he watched from the VIP seats. He wanted to vent his anger, but he had to take into account Douluo and the Dragon King Hall's power into consideration. In the end, he decided not to look at Zhu Zhuqing's battle. Instead, he looked at Lu Yuan's battle. That was what he was more concerned about. After all, his grandson, Hu Yanli, was fighting Lu Yuan. On Lu Yuan's side, Hu Yanli leapt high into the air. His tall and heavy body descended from the sky. Coupled with Hu Yanli's innate soul power, the force of this move was even greater than the force of Hu Yanli and the other two. Die! Hu Yanli roared as he came crashing down on Lu Yuan. He wanted to flatten Lu Yuan this time. Die! Faced with Hu Yanli's terrifying attack that was descending from the sky, Lu Yuan gently extended his right hand. With a spread of his 5 fingers, he caught Hu Yanli's body and lifted him high up into the air. As for the terrifying power that came with it, it seemed to have no effect at all. Even the arena beneath Lu Yuan's feet was still intact. The terrifying force brought about by Hu Yanli's descent from the sky had been completely neutralized by Lu Yuan, without even the slightest ripple. Oh, you're quite heavy. I'm afraid you're close to 250 kilograms. Lu Yuan commented casually as he lifted Hu Yanli up. You let go of me. Hu Yanli struggled in Lu Yuan's hands, but it was to no avail. Lu Yuan's hands seemed to have taken root in his clothes. They didn't move at all. Ali! Huyan Zhen couldn't help but exclaim when he saw this. He stood up abruptly with a worried expression on his face. Don't worry, old elephant. Your grandson is fine, isn't he? Douluo smiled faintly. Then, he changed his tone and said, Of course, I don't know if anything will happen to him later. I'll poison you. Huyan Zhen's heart slowly calmed down when he heard Douluo's words and saw that Hu Yanli wasn't injured. However, Douluo's change in tone almost angered him to death. Douluo, this old bastard, is really hateful. Chapter 585. How F*** King strong is he? Huddingly, who is so big, fell from the sky and was caught by him so easily. Feng Xiaotian could not help but ridicule when he saw Lu Yuan lift Hu Yanli up with a single hand. His casual manner caused Feng Xiaotian to ridicule him. Anyway, it's very big. Huo Wushuang spread out his hands and said, He doesn't plan to fight at all. He's just playing. At this time, Huo Wu, who had been silent all this time, said. Huo Wu's face was very calm, so calm that not a single ripple could be seen. This was very different from her usual fiery temper. Sister, are you okay? Huo Wushuang asked. I'm fine. Huo Wu gently shook her head and said, Sister, why don't we forfeit the match with the Heavenly Star Academy? Since we can't win, there's no need for you to fight with Lu Yuan. He's an abnormal monster. You see, Hudding Li and the others are like toys in his hands. Even if it's us, we won't be any better. You don't have any hope of winning. Huo Wushuang said. I know. Huo Wu nodded and said, I don't plan to win at all. I just want to fight with the strongest of the younger generation and see how big the gap is between us. Okay then. Hearing this, Huo Wushuang slightly nodded. He wasn't afraid of losing, but he was afraid that his sister's confidence would be damaged. After all, her desire to win was very strong. If she was beaten too badly by Lu Yuan, he was afraid that his sister would collapse. But now, It seemed that his sister's mentality had changed a lot. So, even if she lost, it wouldn't have any effect. The huge stone in Huo Wushuang's heart was finally put down. Sister Huo Wu. Hearing Huo Wu's words, Feng Xiaotian couldn't help but whisper. Even Huo Wu had the confidence to face Lu Yuan. Even if she lost, she didn't care. Instead, it was him, a big man, who actually had a shadow in his heart and didn't dare to fight with Lu Yuan. Thinking about it, it seems that he was not even as good as Yu Qianxin, although this guy did not have any self-awareness. But he did not lack courage, although he lost miserably, but at least he still fought with the Heavenly Star Academy. Feng Xiaotian secretly decided that he would forget about the preliminaries, but he would definitely fight with Lu Yuan in the promotion round. He wanted to prove that he, Feng Xiaotian, was not inferior to anyone. Even if he lost the battle, he wouldn't lose the battle. This was Feng Xiaotian's last bit of stubbornness. Looking at Lu Yuan on the stage, Feng Xiaotian's eyes shone brightly. This man is really strong. However, I'm not weak either. Lu Yuan, I'm waiting to fight with you. Feng Xiaotian thought to himself. Lu Yuan, let go of me. Hu Yanli was still struggling, but it was still useless. Lu Yuan just held him up, and his right hand did not tremble at all. Let go of the captain. The other two injured soul ancestors from the Elephant Armor Academy stood up from the ground. Looking at Hu Yanli in Lu Yuan's hand, they shouted at the same time. Their bodies shone with a purple light as they directly pounced on Hu Yanli. Third soul skill, crushing kill. Two huge mountains of flesh pressed down on Lu Yuan. This is none of your business. Get lost. Lu Yuan threw Hu Yanli up with his right hand, then stretched out his right hand, grabbed Hu Yanli's ankle, and swung him towards the two people pressing down on him. Watch my human sledgehammer. Lu Yuan smiled slightly and directly used Hu Yanli as a weapon, smashing him towards the two soul ancestors from the Elephant Armor Academy. No, Ali, Hu Yanjun exclaimed. Even if the other two soul ancestors from the Elephant Armor Academy were hit, they would be fine. At most, they would be injured and would be fine after a few days of rest. But at this moment, Hu Yanli's head was directly smashing towards the two soul ancestors. The head was the most important part of the human body, and it couldn't be damaged in the slightest. Therefore, Hu Yanjun immediately panicked. His lips moved slightly, and he spat out two words. Old elephant, you're cheating. Douluo chuckled. Hu Yanjun glanced at Douluo and then ignored him. Instead, he looked at the battle between Hu Yanli and Hu Yanjun with a worried expression. After being reminded by Hu Yanjun, Hu Yanli's head suddenly shone brightly. The earthy yellow light transformed into a helmet that covered Hu Yanli's entire head. It was the skull that Hu Yanli had obtained. Boom! Just as the earthy yellow helmet was released, Hu Yanli collided with the two soul ancestors from the sky. Immediately, the two soul ancestors' huge bodies were sent flying, and blood gushed out of their mouths. This time, they had suffered internal injuries. Although Hu Yanli had the protection of the helmet, he wasn't completely unharmed. His eyes were blank, and his head was dizzy. He was held in Lu Yuan's hand without moving at all. Lu Yuan casually flung Hu Yanli to the ground. Hu Yanli shook his head for a while before he recovered. When he thought about what Lu Yuan had done, his fourth soul ring lit up and his skin changed again. His entire body was covered with a layer of icicles. He looked at Lu Yuan with a fierce look in his eyes. What? You still want to come at me, stupid elephant? Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. What are you looking at? Do you believe that I won't break your helmet if you keep looking? Seeing Hu Yanli's fierce eyes staring at him, Lu Yuan couldn't help but glare at Hu Yanli and say loudly. After being glared at by Lu Yuan, Hu Yanli's gaze became even more fierce. He had a temperamental personality, and with the addition of Lu Yuan's provocation, he had gradually lost his rationality and entered a half-crazy state. In this state, he didn't know what fear was. Roar! Hu Yanli roared and pounced towards Lu Yuan. It seems like you've turned a deaf ear to my words. All right, then watch how I break your helmet. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Yuan's figure flashed and appeared in front of Hu Yinli. He clenched his right hand, and an enormous force burst forth. Immediately, the icicles that covered Hu Yinli's body because of his fourth soul skill shattered. Lu Yuan grabbed Hu Yinli's shoulder with his left hand and released his strength. Immediately, Hu Yinli couldn't move. Lu Yuan clenched his right hand into a fist and punched Hu Yinli's head. Immediately, the sturdy-looking earthen yellow helmet shattered under Lu Yuan's enormous strength. He gently swung his left hand and threw Hu Yinli off the stage. Following that, he kicked the other two soul ancestors off the stage. Once he was done, Lu Yuan clapped his hands and nodded to Zhu Zhuqing, who had already taken down two soul exalts, before speaking in a calm voice. Zhuqing, stop playing. You can call it a day. As soon as Lu Yuan's voice sounded, Zhu Zhuqing sped up. She didn't hide anymore and used her claws to beat up the remaining two soul elders from the elephant armor sect. Zhu Zhuqing kicked out a few times and sent the disciples of the elephant armor sect off the stage. Chapter 586. The match is over. The Heavenly Star Academy team wins. Lu Yuan had just sent the members of the Wang Jia Academy team off the stage when the host's voice suddenly sounded. Heavenly Star, Emperor Dragon, Zhu Zhuqing. At the end of the match, the audience couldn't help but cheer in unison. In this match, they finally saw the true strength of the Heavenly Star Academy team. Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing teamed up and easily pressed the entire Wang Jia Academy team to the ground and beat them up. There were no dazzling skills, just ordinary attacks. With a few punches and kicks, they treated the entire Wang Jia Academy team as toys and played with them at will. Lu Yuan's strength was unfathomable. He had only shown the tip of the iceberg, but it had already shocked the audience. In particular, the figure of the god of war in the golden dragon armor made many of the audience gasp in amazement. For a time, he had gained countless fans. Zhu Zhuqing was the same. She was beautiful to begin with. She had a cold face and an extremely hot figure. Such a beauty would easily attract the attention of others. Coupled with the fact that Zhu Zhuqing had displayed her strength as a soul king and possessed 5 soul rings that exceeded the optimal combination of soul rings, the support that Zhu Zhuqing received from the audience today wasn't any less than Lu Yuan's. Zhuqing, how does it feel to be cheered and supported by the audience? Lu Yuan asked softly, looking at Zhu Zhuqing beside him. It's okay, I'm just a little not used to it. Zhu Zhuqing's cold voice sounded. Hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded gently, indicating that he understood. After all, Zhu Zhuqing had a quiet nature and was easily shy. This was the first time she encountered such a scene of being cheered by thousands of people, so it was normal for her to be a little unaccustomed. What about you? You don't seem to feel anything at all. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but ask. I'm used to this, so I've long been immune to it. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Along the way, he had been in the Heaven Do Great Soul Arena for a month and the Soto Great Soul Arena for almost a year. He had seen many such scenes, so there was no fluctuation in his heart at all. Moreover, he was the center of attention wherever he went. He was already used to being the center of attention. After listening to Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but roll her eyes at Lu Yuan. It was clearly these words, but why did it feel like Lu Yuan was showing off? Let's go. Nodding to Zhu Zhuqing, the two of them walked down the stage together. Ali. Not only had a Weaver Academy lost, but Hu Yinli's helmet had also been shattered by Lu Yuan. Hu Yinli couldn't take it anymore. He released his soul force, and a powerful aura filled the air. What's wrong, old stupid elephant? You want to throw a tantrum after losing? Who do you want to throw a tantrum at? Looking for our hall master? Douluo chuckled and said, None of those who find trouble with our hall master have a good ending. Don't forget about Sokka's. After hearing this, Sokka's face immediately turned black. On the other hand, Hu Yinjun paused. Douluo was right. Lu Yuan was the hall master of the Dragon King Hall. He had the protection of a transcendent Douluo. With just a few moves, He would be courting death if he went up against him. Furthermore, there was the dragon Emperor Douluo. He was a ruthless person who could hang Sokka's up and beat him up. After beating him up, the martial soul palace didn't do anything. That was impressive. Therefore, after thinking about it, he suppressed the impulse in his heart. Furthermore, the arena competition was fair. If they lost, they could only blame Huyan Li and the others for being inferior. He really couldn't find a reason to make a move. After sighing in his heart, Huyan said, "Everyone, please take a seat. I'll go and check on Ali and the others' injuries." After speaking, Huyan figure flashed, and he disappeared from the VIP seats. TSK, TSK. Looks like this old dumb elephant knows what's good for him. Unlike you, Sokka's. You've been beaten up so badly. Boss is such a pighead. Douluo winked at Sokka's, his old face smiling like a chrysanthemum. After being ridiculed by Douluo, Sokka's clenched his fists. If Lu Yuan had wanted him to pretend to be angry after the Lejia Academy team lost, there was no need to pretend now. Douluo's poisonous tongue had successfully ignited his anger. The only thing Sokka's wanted to do now was to pin Douluo to the ground and give him a good beating. However, Sokka seemed to suddenly think of something. He looked at Douluo with a cold smile on his face. I heard that Elder Douluo said before the competition that if the Lejia Academy team didn't lose in a minute, you would eat this chair? Sokka pointed at the chair in front of him and said, "If I'm not wrong, the duration of the competition was 2 minutes. So, Elder Douluo, please? I'll be the witness of you eating this chair." Hearing this, Douluo's old face stiffened. How could he have forgotten this? He was dead meat this time. Looking at the chair in front of him, Douluo's face darkened. His old face pulled a long face. "Oh Lord, you're cheating me. This could have been settled in a few seconds, but you had to drag it out to 2 minutes? I've really been tricked by you this time. This old man doesn't have such good teeth." Looking at the chair made of wood and metal, Douluo wanted to cry, but had no tears. Elder Douluo, why is your mouth so swollen?" In the Dragon King Hall, Lu Yuan and the others were sitting in the pavilion drinking tea. Suddenly, seeing Douluo's swollen cheeks, Lu Yuan asked in confusion. Hearing this, Douluo remained silent. He held his cheeks and sat down opposite Lu Yuan. Yin stood by his side. "Yin Zi, what's wrong with your grandfather?" Lu Yuan looked at Yin with confusion. Not only that, but even Zhu Zhuqing, Wang Qiu'er, and Ning Rongrong, who were sitting beside Lu Yuan, were also staring at Yin curiously. This, Yin muttered to herself for a moment, and then explained the whole matter from beginning to end. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. The girls also covered their mouths and laughed. "So, Elder Douluo, you really ate it?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile. "Of course. I'll do what I say," Douluo said with determination. "You ate the entire chair?" Lu Yuan looked at Douluo in shock. "No, I only ate 2 mouthfuls, and my teeth fell out. Lord, please help me." Douluo held his cheeks and looked like he was in pain. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile and shake his head. White light flickered in his hand and wrapped around Douluo's wound. Very soon, Douluo's swollen wound was completely healed. "Elder Douluo, don't talk nonsense in the future." Lu Yuan chuckled. Hearing this, Douluo couldn't help but glance at Lu Yuan. There was a hint of bitterness in his expression. Chapter 587. The qualifiers continued, but the Heavenly Star Academy team was very bored these days. Thanks to Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing's work, the other teams were shocked by the strength of the Heavenly Star Academy team. Every team chose to forfeit when they met the Heavenly Star Academy team. For 4 consecutive days, they won without a fight. One of the matches was against the God Wind Academy, but like the other teams, the God Wind Academy's Feng Xiaotian chose to forfeit. Many teams seemed to have reached a consensus that there was no need to fight the Heavenly Star Academy team in the qualifiers, so they all chose to withdraw. Today it was Saturday again. In the Dragon King Hall, a few girls sat together, staring at each other. "What's wrong? You're all sitting here without saying a word." Are you all very free? In the room, Lu Yuan, who had just finished crafting a soul tool, walked out and saw Zhu Zhuqing, Wang Qiu'er, and the other three sitting across from each other. He couldn't help but ask, "Very free, I don't know what to do." Dugian's voice sounded, "Yes, yes, and we haven't competed for 4 consecutive days. It's quite boring." Ning Rongrong said, "If you're free, you can go out for a stroll. Let Sister Xiaodao accompany you and protect you. Don't always stay at home. Besides, don't you girls like to go shopping?" Lu Yuan said, "We've already been shopping for 3 days. We've already explored the entire Heavendo city." Wang Qiu'er said faintly, "Okay, then I can't do anything." Hearing Wang Qiu'er's words, Lu Yuan spread his hands and said helplessly, "You must be tired after crafting a soul tool. Look at you, your head is covered in sweat." Zhu Zhuqing said softly. She stood up, took out a handkerchief, and wiped the sweat off Lu Yuan's forehead. "My Zhuqing is indeed the most considerate." After Zhu Zhuqing wiped off the sweat on her forehead, Lu Yuan grabbed her hand and said softly, "Don't worry, I'll be fine. Pay attention, there are others." Zhu Zhuqing glanced at Lu Yuan and said softly, "Huh." Lu Yuan chortled and didn't say anything else. He held Zhu Zhuqing's hand and sat down beside Wang Qiu'er. "Little Qiu hasn't played in the past 2 days. Are you bored?" Lu Yuan asked softly as he pinched Wang Qiu'er's cheeks. "Yes, I'm really bored. Furthermore, brother doesn't play with me. I'm so bored," Wang Qiu'er said in a coquettish voice. "I'm busy. However, I haven't forgotten about Qiu. This time, I've specially prepared a gift for Qiu'er." Lu Yuan smiled as he spoke. "What gift?" Wang Qiu opened her eyes wide when she heard that there was a gift. Her eyes were filled with curiosity. Lu Yuan laughed as he said, "A soul tool. Elder brother has specially made a soul tool for Qiu'er." "Really?" When she heard Lu Yuan's words, Wang Qiu'er's eyes immediately brightened. Her elder brother had tailor-made it for her. Wang Qiu'er was delighted, and her face was full of smiles. "Of course it's true. Well, have I ever lied to you, Qiu'er?" Lu Yuan chuckled as he spoke. "Let's go. This place is too small. I'll bring you to see this soul tool that I've specially made for you." Lu Yuan stood up and smiled at Wang Qiu'er. "Okay." Wang Qiu'er nodded her head forcefully. After that, she stood up and grabbed Lu Yuan's hand. "You just sat down, and you haven't even had a sip of tea. Why are you going out again? You should rest first." Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but speak when she saw that Lu Yuan was about to leave again. There was a tinge of concern in her voice. "It's fine. I'm not tired. Let's go together. You guys have a share too." Lu Yuan smiled gently at Zhu Zhuqing as his gentle voice rang out. "We have a share too." When they heard Lu Yuan's words, Dugi Yin and Ning Rongrong couldn't help but point at themselves. There was a tinge of astonishment on their faces. In a spacious plaza in the Seoul Tool Hall, as he looked at the few girls in front of him, Lu Yuan smiled. He waved his hand gently, and a bright golden spear that was about 3 meters long appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. The design of this spear wasn't very extravagant. Instead, it had a low-key and luxurious feel to it. The golden spear was covered with fiery red, demonic patterns. The entire spear was a single entity, and there were no signs that it was connected. As he held the spear, he could feel a faint warmth. If he felt it carefully, he could feel that there seemed to be energy surging within it. It was exceptionally strange. "Qiu'er for you." Lu Yuan placed the spear horizontally in front of Wang Qiu. "Brother, is this for me?" Wang Qiu took the spear and caressed it lovingly. This spear wasn't light. It weighed more than 500 kilograms. If it were someone else, they wouldn't be able to use it. However, it was just right for Wang Qiu. Yes, this spear is made from scarlet gold, an extremely rare metal. There are a total of 108 formation arrays that operate together, and it's infused with the power of light and fire. It's a Class 7 soul tool, and it's also the pinnacle of my soul tool skills. Lu Yuan said softly, "A Class 7 soul tool. Have you become a Class 7 soul engineer?" After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but ask, Yes, I've had a sudden inspiration over the past few days. I accidentally broke through. Lu Yuan laughed. Accidentally? When she heard this, Zhu Zhuqing's mouth twitched. Why does it sound like he's showing off? Lu Yuan didn't know what Zhu Zhuqing was thinking. He looked at Wang Qiu and smiled warmly. He asked, "Do you like it, Qiu?" In fact, he had wanted to make a weapon for Wang Qiu for a long time. Wang Qiu also knew how to use a spear. Furthermore, she had learned a lot from Lu Yuan over the past few months. He needed the golden dragon spear for himself, and he couldn't give it to Wang Qiu. Therefore, he made this Class 7 soul tool as a gift for Wang Qiu. Speaking of which, a Class 7 soul tool was enough for Wang Qiu. Qiu likes it. Brother, what's the name of this spear? Wang Qiu caressed the spear in her hand. There was a look of delight in her eyes. After sizing it up, she lifted her head and looked at Lu Yuan. I haven't named it yet. Since it's made from scarlet gold, why don't we call it the Scarlet Gold Spear? When he heard Wang Qiu ask for his name, Lu Yuan scratched his head. In fact, he was bad at naming things. When he gave Chihiro Snow's sword, it was called the Holy Sword because it was infused with holy power. When he gave it to Ning Rongrong, it contained the power of ice and fire, so it was called the Ice Fire Sword. Since this golden dragon spear was made from scarlet gold, he might as well name it the Scarlet Gold Spear. It was simple and crude. All right, we'll call it the Scarlet Gold Spear then. Wang Qiu held the spear and waved it twice. She was delighted as she spoke. Chapter 588. Zhuqing, this is yours. Lu Yuan smiled as he saw Wang Qiu looking at the spear happily. A light flashed in his hand, and a sword that was about 4 feet 3 inches long, 1 foot 2 inches long, and 4 inches wide appeared in his hand. This sword was completely blue, and the blade was as transparent and flawless as a sapphire. There was a faint, cold aura around the blade, and the hilt was also blue. There was a huge, pure sapphire embedded at the top of the hilt. There were golden demonic patterns carved on the hilt, and it looked very strange. The sword guard spread open like a phoenix's wings, and the blue-gold phoenix carvings made it look very noble and gorgeous. This sword was different from Wang Qiu's Scarlet Flame Spear. The Scarlet Flame Spear was low-key and luxurious, while this sword was noble and gorgeous. Although their styles were different, they both looked very pleasing to the eye. This was Lu Yuan's style. After all, he was obsessed with good looks, and his products were all very good-looking. Chihiro Snow's Holy Sword and Ning Rongrong's Ice Fire Sword were both very beautiful and exquisite. His reputation as someone who was obsessed with good looks wasn't just for show. However, when he thought about Qian Rinchue's Holy Sword, Lu Yuan remembered that this sword wasn't complete when it was first created. It could still be upgraded. It seemed like he had to find an opportunity to upgrade Qian Rinchue's Holy Sword to a Class 7 soul tool. Lu Yuan thought to himself. Lu Yuan came back to his senses after this thought, and continued to introduce the sword to Zhu Zhuqing. This sword is made from ice wave crystals, and it's very compatible with your 9 lives links. I've infused the power of extreme ice into it, and it's very strong. It's also a Class 7 soul tool. In terms of quality, this sword isn't inferior to Qiu's Scarlet Flame Spear. Is it also a Class 7 soul tool? Zhu Zhuqing asked softly as she received the sword. Yes, it is. Lu Yuan nodded and said. What's its name? Zhu Zhuqing asked. I haven't named it yet, but since it's made from ice wave crystals, why don't we call it the Ice Wave Sword? Lu Yuan suggested. No. Zhu Zhuqing shook her head and said, the Ice Billow Sword has no special characteristics. Why don't we call it the Clear Abyss Sword? Clear Abyss Sword? Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan. Do we have a character for each of our names? Hearing Zhu Zhuqing's words, Lu Yuan instantly understood the origin of this name. The corners of his mouth involuntarily curled, revealing a slight smile. On the other hand, Ning Rongrong and Duguyan immediately understood the meaning of the Clear Abyss Sword's name. They couldn't help but pout at the same time. F***, it's just a sword. He didn't expect that Zhu Zhuqing who was always quiet, would be so good at showing off her public display of affection. Zhu Zhuqing examined the clear abyss sword while Lu Yuan turned to Dugu Yin and Ning Rongrong. With a wave of his hand, a long staff and a hair ornament appeared in his hands. This is a Class 6 soul tool, poison staff. I've soaked it in the toxins of many poisonous soul beasts. Its toxicity is astonishing. It's just right for you. I'll give it to you, Yinzi, Lu Yuan said. Thank you, Hall Master. Dugu Yin received the poison staff, and a smile that couldn't be erased surfaced on her face. You don't have to thank me. You deserve it. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said, in all fairness, Dugu Yin did deserve it. Putting aside his own good performance over the past few days, Douluo had contributed a lot to the Dragon King Hall. In particular, his advertisement was very good, and it immediately raised the popularity of the longevity pill and ageless pill. Therefore, Lu Yuan still had to express some appreciation for Douluo's contributions. Douluo didn't lack anything, so he could only express his appreciation to his granddaughter, Dugu Yin. Giving Dugu Yin a Class 6 soul tool, poison staff, could be considered Lu Yuan's reward for Douluo's contributions. Rong, this is yours. This hair accessory is actually a Class 6 defensive type soul tool. Your current Class 5 soul tool is a little inferior, so I'll give you a Class 6 one this time. In addition to the Class 6 defensive type soul tool that I gave you the other time, your safety will be guaranteed with 2 layers of defense. Lu Yuan smiled and handed the hair accessory to Ning Rongrong. Lu Yuan still felt a little apologetic that he had indirectly used Ning Rongrong to pass information to Ning Fengji last time. He decided to give Ning Rongrong a Class 6 soul tool this time. This way, he would feel much better. Obuchi, thank you. But can you help me put it on? Ning Rongrong thanked Lu Yuan first. After that, she looked at Lu Yuan with an expectant look on her face. A cough. About this, all right. After hesitating for a while, Lu Yuan still agreed. It was just a hair accessory. It wasn't anything embarrassing. If he wanted to help, then so be it. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Ning Rongrong immediately smiled. Her sapphire-like eyes curved into beautiful crescents. Very quickly, Lu Yuan helped Ning Rongrong put on the hair accessory. Does it look good, Lu Yuan? Ning Rongrong blushed slightly as she asked softly. When Lu Yuan helped her put on the hair accessory earlier, she was a little intoxicated by his masculine scent. She really wanted to jump into Lu Yuan's arms. However, she restrained herself because of her current status. After all, Lu Yuan hadn't accepted her yet. However, she still wanted to get closer to Lu Yuan. That was why she couldn't help but ask this question. She wanted to gain Lu Yuan's appreciation and recognition. It looks good. It suits you very well. Lu Yuan nodded and directly spoke the truth. Ning Rongrong was indeed very beautiful. She wasn't much inferior to Zhu Zhuqing. It was just that her figure was a little lacking. After wearing the hair accessory, she looked even more beautiful. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Ning Rongrong couldn't help but smile. That smile was very sweet. The next morning, Heavendoe Imperial Palace. In front of Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow, who was disguised as Xue Qinghe, bowed to Lu Yuan and said in a warm voice, Palace Lord Lu, please follow me. Father has been waiting for you for a long time. Lu Yuan first looked at the palace guard around him. Then he retracted his gaze and stared straight at Chihiro Snow in front of him, carefully sizing him up. To be honest, he had never carefully looked at Chihiro Snow's appearance when he was disguised as Xue Qinghe. As for appearance, although he couldn't be compared to Lu Yuan, he could still be considered handsome. Moreover, his temperament was gentle and refined. He gave people a feeling of being bathed in the spring breeze. Unconsciously, people would want to get close to him. From a woman's point of view, this kind of man should be the very charming type. Speaking of which, if Chihiro Snow went out to pick up girls with his face, he should be able to hook up with quite a few beauties. Lu Yuan secretly muttered in his heart while sizing him up. Seeing Lu Yuan staring at him with a strange expression, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but frown. His intuition told him that Lu Yuan was thinking of something bad. Therefore, when the palace guards weren't paying attention, Chihiro Snow fiercely glared at Lu Yuan. Chapter 589. After being glared at by Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. However, he didn't retract his gaze. Instead, he rolled his eyes and sized him up from head to toe. Cough, cough. Chihiro Snow coughed and said, "Hall Master Lu, please follow me." As he spoke, he led the way. Qianrenxue was well aware of Lu Yuan's shameless nature. She didn't want to waste time with Lu Yuan here. No matter how she fought with this guy, she would be the one at a disadvantage in the end. Therefore, Qianrenxue decided not to take the bait and just left. However, this move was actually quite effective. As he watched Chihiro Snow lead the way, Lu Yuan could only call out to Chihiro Snow. After that, he followed behind Chihiro Snow. As he followed Chihiro Snow, they made many turns and crossed many palaces before they finally reached their destination. It had to be said that the Heaven Do Imperial Palace was huge. It wasn't smaller than the Martial Soul Palace. Since it was a private meeting, he definitely wouldn't receive Lu Yuan in the main hall of the Imperial Palace. Instead, he received Lu Yuan in a pavilion in the Imperial Garden of the Imperial Palace. "Father, Palace Lord Lu is here." Qianrenxue bowed slightly to the Snow Knight Emperor and said softly, "Oh, Hall Master Lu is here." After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, the Snow Knight Emperor turned around slightly and stood up. Beside him, a middle-aged man also stood up. "Hall Master Lu is young and talented. I've admired you for a long time. Today, I'm finally fortunate enough to meet you." The Snow Knight Emperor smiled faintly. "You're too kind. I've been friends with you for a long time. Today, I can see that you're indeed worthy of your reputation. You're full of the demeanor of an emperor." Lu Yuan said softly, "You lift me up, and I lift you up. We're just using each other. It's just some pleasantries. Whoever believes it will lose." Everyone present was a shrewd person, and they could tell the truth and politeness in his words with just one listen. However, everyone pretended that they didn't hear it. After all, he was a high-level leader who didn't have some acting skills. Lu Yuan's gaze shifted and landed on Ning Fengji. "Uncle Ning is here too. Ha! Obuchi, your meeting with the great emperor is such a memorable scene. How can I not be there?" Ning Fengji laughed softly. Lu Yuan smiled and didn't comment. He knew what Ning Fengji was thinking. Ning Fengji wanted the alliance between the Dragon King Palace and the Heaven Do Imperial Clan, so that Ning Fengji could help the Heaven Do Imperial Clan persuade Lu Yuan. After all, the Seven Treasures Glaze sect would benefit a lot from the alliance between the Dragon King Palace and the Imperial family. Ning Fengji was very cunning. Lu Yuan knew this very well. Therefore, he wasn't surprised that Ning Fengji was here. "Hall Master Lu, please take a seat." The Snowy Knight Emperor pointed to the seat opposite him and laughed softly. "Thank you, Emperor." Lu Yuan didn't decline and sat down. Long Xiaoyao stood behind Lu Yuan. Shui Yi and Ning Fengji also sat down when they saw Lu Yuan sit down. After the few of them sat down, servant girls immediately served tea and snacks. The Snowy Knight Emperor looked at Long Xiaoyao before turning to Lu Yuan. He asked softly, "This must be the Dragon Emperor." "Yes, this is Elder Long," Lu Yuan nodded and replied. "The Dragon Emperor Douluo is indeed one of the most powerful individuals in the world. His aura is as deep as the abyss." The Snowy Knight Emperor praised. "You're too kind, Emperor." Long Xiaoyao's voice sounded. "Qing He, prepare a seat for the Dragon Emperor Douluo." The Snowy Knight Emperor instructed Chihiro Snow. "Yes, father." After hearing this, Chihiro Snow nodded and hurriedly arranged for the servant girls around to prepare a seat for Long Xiaoyao. "Take a seat, Elder Long," Lu Yuan said. "Yes, master." After receiving Lu Yuan's permission, Long Xiaoyao sat down. Isn't Elder Jian the one following Uncle Ning today? This elder is unusually tall. If I'm not wrong, this should be the Bon Douluo, Elder Gu. Lu Yuan asked curiously as he looked at the 2.5-meter tall figure behind Ning Feng. Yes, it's Uncle Gu. Uncle Jin has something to do today, so Uncle Gu is accompanying me. Ning Fengji replied. Oh, I see. Lu Yuan nodded and shifted his gaze away from the bone Douluo. The bone Douluo was a rank 95 transcendent Douluo. His abilities were decent, but he was much weaker than the sword Douluo. Lu Yuan only paid attention to him because of his 2.5-meter tall figure. That was why he only looked at him casually before retracting his gaze. On the other hand, the bone Douluo was sizing up Lu Yuan with interest. He seemed to be trying to see what kind of magic Lu Yuan had that could make Ning Rong so infatuated. Lu Yuan could naturally sense the bone Douluo sizing him up. However, he didn't care. Why didn't Elder Douluo come with Hall Master Lu today? The Snowy Night Emperor asked softly as he looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said, Elder Douluo didn't want to see anyone she knew these 2 days. She was afraid that it would be awkward. As soon as Lu Yuan said that, the Snowy Night Emperor and Ning Fengji immediately realized that it was because of the chair incident. Thinking about it, the two of them couldn't help but smile. Emperor, I heard from Sect Master Ning that you wanted to meet me to discuss a collaboration. Lu Yuan took a sip of tea. He didn't hide anything anymore. Instead, he went straight to the point. Yes, what do you think, Hall Master Lu? Since Lu Yuan was so direct, the Snowy Night Emperor didn't bother with the pleasantries. He also went straight to the point. Sect Master Ning has told me about this before. I don't have any objections to the collaboration. I just don't know what benefits the Dragon King Hall will get from supporting the Heaven Do imperial family, Lu Yuan said slowly. Haha, Hall Master Lu is really straight to the point. The Snowy Night Emperor chuckled when he heard Lu Yuan's words. I've always been a straightforward person. I don't like to play around with empty words. After all, it's useless to talk about other unimportant things. These things are the most important, Lu Yuan said faintly. Hall Master Lu is right. In this world, benefits are the most important. Our collaboration is a win-win situation. As long as the Dragon King Hall is willing to support the Heaven Do imperial family, there will be many benefits. The Heaven Do imperial family is very sincere to our allies. The Snowy Night Emperor said. Oh, Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and said, Then I'd like to see how sincere you are. Chapter 590. Since Palace Master Lu has asked in such a manner, this Emperor will properly explain it to you. Mainly, there are 3 points. Firstly, all transactions conducted within the Empire by the Dragon King Hall will be exempt from taxes. The Empire will not take a single cent of the profits, and all profits will belong to the Dragon King Hall. The Snowy Night Emperor took a sip of tea and said softly. Oh, Lu Yuan was slightly surprised when he heard this. Exempting the Dragon King Hall from all taxes in the Heaven Do Empire was quite a generous offer. One must know that the annual transaction volume of the Dragon King Palace was absolutely a terrifying figure. Furthermore, when the Dragon King Palace conducted transactions in various kingdoms and provinces, they had to pay a certain amount of taxes to the various kingdoms and provinces. This sum of money was definitely not a small amount. With the Snowy Night Emperor's offer, the Dragon King Hall would be exempt from all taxes within the Heaven Do Empire. This would save a huge sum of money every year. This was a very tempting offer. The Snowy Night Emperor smiled when he saw the surprise on Lu Yuan's face. He continued, Secondly, the Empire will support all transactions conducted by the Dragon King Hall within the Empire in the future. We will give priority to all transactions within the Empire and waive all sorts of complicated processing fees. Furthermore, the Empire will officially promote the Dragon King Hall's products. Is this the second benefit? Lu Yuan stroked his chin gently. Although the Dragon King Hall was developing well and had even expanded its trade to the Xianra Empire, it was still developing rapidly in the Heaven Do Imperial City because it had only been established for a year and had yet to gain a stable footing. However, the Dragon King Hall was not developing as well in other places as in the Heaven Do Imperial City. According to the Snowy Night Emperor's offer, the Dragon King Hall's development would enter a period of rapid growth. This condition was even more tempting than the first one. Thirdly, it's in terms of honor. I have decided to bestow upon Palace Master Lu the title of Golden Dragon King. He will be a first-class king and will be ranked above all officials. He will be able to enter the palace with a sword and will not have to bow before the emperor. At the same time, he will be given 5,000 households and 30,000 hectares of fertile land. The Snowy Night Emperor threw out his third condition before Lu Yuan could speak. When this condition was mentioned, not only did Lu Yuan narrow his eyes, but even Ning Fengji and Shuet Qinghe had a trace of surprise in their eyes. The title of Golden Dragon King was even more exalted than that of Ning Fengji's teacher. The titles of nobility in the empire, from top to bottom, were generally given to dukes, earls, marquises, viscounts, and males. Other than the royal family, the title of king was basically not given to anyone else. And now, the Snow Night Emperor had not only bestowed Lu Yuan with the title of prince, but it was also the highest rank of first-class prince. His position was a bit high. Although it was just a title without any actual authority, the significance of this title was very significant. Not to mention, there were also 5,000 households and 30,000 hectares of fertile land. This was not a small amount of wealth. Therefore, both Ning Fengji and Chihiro Snow were a little shocked. The Snowy Night Emperor was really bold. He had invested a lot to win over the Dragon King Palace. Interesting, the Emperor's conditions are quite tempting. Lu Yuan tapped his fingers on the table and said softly, "What do you think, Palace Master Lu? Are these three conditions sincere enough?" The Snowy Night Emperor asked. "Yes, they are sincere enough." Lu Yuan said indifferently. "What about the cooperation?" The Snowy Night Emperor asked. "The cooperation will be as you wish. From today onwards, the Dragon King Palace will fully support the Heaven Do imperial family. We will share weal and woe together." Lu Yuan said, "Good. Palace Master Lu is indeed a straightforward person." The Snowy Night Emperor was overjoyed when he heard Lu Yuan's words. His originally pale face seemed to have a few traces of redness. He clapped his hands lightly, and a maid came up with a tray. There were two items on the tray. One was a square seal that was purple and gold in color. There were exquisite dragon carvings on the seal. The other item was a dazzling golden medallion. On one side of the medallion was a snow-white swan. This was the symbol of the Heaven Do imperial family. On the other side was a majestic golden dragon. It looked exactly like Lu Yuan's golden dragon. These two items are the Golden Dragon King's seal and medallion. They represent the Golden Dragon King's status. Please accept them," the Snowy Night Emperor said. "Then it would be impolite to refuse." Lu Yuan smiled faintly. "Haha, Palace Master Lu. Oh no, I should call you Golden Dragon King now. This emperor has arranged a banquet in the Shun Palace. Golden Dragon King and this emperor will sit down and chat while we eat. How about it?" The Snowy Night Emperor was very happy that he had successfully reached an agreement with Lu Yuan. With the support of another superpower, the Heaven Do imperial family was as stable as Mount Tai. Furthermore, with the support of the Dragon King Palace, which had 5 titled Soul Masters, and even the limit Douluo Xiaoyao, the Snowy Night Emperor was no longer afraid of the Martial Soul Palace. He was overjoyed and directly invited Lu Yuan to sit down. "That would be great." Lu Yuan smiled. "Golden Dragon King, please." The Snowy Night Emperor extended his hand. "After you, Emperor." Lu Yuan smiled. "Ha ha ha." The Snowy Night Emperor laughed and walked in front. Lu Yuan smiled and followed behind the Snowy Night Emperor. Crown Prince's residence. Chihiro Snow's study. Lu Yuan lay in front of Chihiro Snow's desk and stared at Chihiro Snow. "Why don't we go to your room?" Chihiro Snow rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan and said, "What do you want to do in my room in broad daylight?" Lu Yuan blinked and said, "Don't you know what I want to do?" Chihiro Snow spat and said, "Tui, pervert. All you think about is doing bad things." Lu Yuan spread his hands and pretended to be helpless as he said, "Ah, I can't help it. My share is too beautiful. I can't help it. Chihiro Snow blushed when she heard this, but the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. She was actually very happy that Lu Yuan was so infatuated with her. All right, stop fooling around. Let's talk about something serious. Chihiro Snow said with a serious expression. Talk about something serious? All right, go ahead. Lu Yuan stopped smiling when he heard Chihiro Snow's words. He sat up straight, and his expression became serious. Speaking of which, Lu Yuan and Qianren Xue were quite similar. Both of them were the type who could be fooling around 1 second and immediately get into the mood to talk about work the next second. It was no wonder they were together. Obu Chi, now that your Dragon King Palace is allied with the Heaven Do Imperial family, we can start our plans slowly. Chihiro Snow said. Chapter 591. After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but frown as he said, Is there a need to be so hasty, Cher? Haste makes waste. It's still a little too early to make a move. If we act too hastily, it'll be easy to reveal our flaws and alert the enemy. Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan as he spoke softly. I didn't say that we should act now. I only said that we can start the plan slowly. Start slowly? Lu Yuan tapped his fingers on the table as he muttered to himself. Then tell me what you're thinking. Chihiro Snow nodded and said, You know that I'm currently in charge of the entire Heaven Do Empire's political affairs, right? Yes. Lu Yuan nodded slightly and said, They all say that the Snowy Night Emperor's health is deteriorating, so the Crown Prince is temporarily in charge of political affairs. I'm aware of this. However, Cher, you're the one behind the Snowy Night Emperor's health, aren't you? Did you cause the poison in his body to slowly erupt in advance? That's why the Snowy Night Emperor's health is deteriorating. Cher, I have to give you a piece of advice. The Snowy Night Emperor can't die yet. At the very least, he can't die before you wipe out all the opposing voices in the Imperial Court. Otherwise, once he dies, those who oppose you will take the opportunity to retaliate. That will be quite a big problem. Furthermore, if the Snowy Night Emperor dies too suddenly, then you, as the #1 successor, will be the first person to be suspected. They will suspect that you killed your father in order to ascend to the throne. This will be very disadvantageous for you. As he spoke, Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow with a serious expression. I know that, so I don't plan to let the Snowy Night Emperor die right now. I'm just slowly drawing out the poison in the Snowy Night Emperor's body so that his body will slowly deteriorate. When he dies, it will be a few years later. When he dies, everyone will only think that his body can't hold on anymore, and that's why he's slowly dying. No one will suspect me. In the face of Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow slowly explained. I see. After listening to Qianren Xue's explanation, Lu Yuan nodded slightly. If it had been a few years before he died, then it would not have attracted too much attention. After all, people would die eventually. It was just a matter of whether it was a strange death or a normal death. It made sense that the Snowy Night Emperor had dragged it on for a few years before he could no longer hold on. It seemed that he had underestimated Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow was still as cautious and considerate as ever. When she was doing this, she had already considered this problem. However, was Chihiro Snow doing this because he was slowly gaining confidence in controlling the entire Heaven Do Empire within a few years? Thinking about it, Lu Yuan raised his own question. If I were alone, I wouldn't be confident. However, with the help of your Dragon King Palace and the cooperation of your Golden Dragon King, I'm confident that I'll be able to take complete control of the Heaven Do Empire in the next few years. Therefore, little Yuan, you'll have to help me from now on. Chihiro Snow winked as she spoke playfully to Lu Yuan. My wife has already spoken. How can I not help? If you need anything, just let me know. I'll do it. Lu Yuan spread his hands and pretended to be helpless. Hee, at least you have some conscience. Chihiro Snow rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan, but her face was full of smiles. Cher, how is the situation in the Imperial Court now? Lu Yuan asked. The situation is not bad. Although there are officials who oppose me, There aren't many of them. However, there are many neutral parties. What I need to do now is to establish my authority in the imperial court and have everyone gradually acknowledge me. While I rope the neutral parties, I will do my best to eliminate those officials who don't see eye to eye with me. Chihiro Snow said. Yes. After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan nodded and said, what you are doing is not wrong. However, you have to be careful. Don't go overboard. That will have negative effects. If you really want to eliminate someone, you don't have to do it yourself to avoid arousing suspicion. You just have to tell me, and I will help you arrange a reasonable death. What do you mean by reasonable? Chihiro Snow asked with a smile. Reasonable means that they deserve to die. The kind that won't arouse suspicion. For example, when we pushed the blame to Avalanche in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy, it was very reasonable. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow and Lu Yuan couldn't help but look at each other. The two of them smiled at the same time. Back then, the two of them could be said to have cooperated quite well. Now, the tacit understanding between the two of them was still very good. Looking at Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow's eyes were filled with gentleness. It was really easy to cooperate with this guy. There was no need to say anything. With just a look, he could understand what he meant. This feeling of being understood was really wonderful. Fortunately, there was still someone in the world who understood and supported him. Chihiro Snow thought to himself. Seeing that Chihiro Snow was staring at him without moving, Lu Yuan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and said with a smile, What's wrong, Cher? Why are you staring at me like that? Are you mesmerized by my peerless beauty? Bah, you're narcissistic again. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but glare at Lu Yuan. This isn't narcissism. This is confidence. There's no other way. Who asked me to have such a handsome face? Lu Yuan laughed. Seeing Lu Yuan's narcissistic appearance, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but shake his head. This guy's skin was really thick to a certain extent. It was simply impossible to pierce through it with a needle, impossible to be shaken by lightning. She really couldn't do anything about this guy. Looking at Lu Yuan, Qian Renshua suddenly had a flash of inspiration as she remembered something. Obu Chi, there's something I forgot to tell you. Chihiro Snow said. Oh, what is it? Lu Yuan asked curiously. Do you still remember that Tang Sin you mentioned before? Chihiro Snow asked. Of course. What about him? Did something happen? Lu Yuan asked. He did. He's currently at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. He's the captain of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team. Chihiro Snow said. You're telling the truth? Hearing this, a trace of shock flashed across Lu Yuan's face. He didn't expect Tang San to be at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Moreover, he was the captain. This news was a bit interesting. But how did Tang San get into the Heaven Do Imperial Academy? He didn't have Qin Ming to introduce him to. Lu Yuan had some doubts in his heart, so he directly asked. The previous captain of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy, Yu Qianheng, invited Tang San to join. Chihiro Snow's vermilion lips lightly parted as she revealed another piece of news that shocked Lu Yuan. Chapter 592. Yu Qianheng invited Tang San to join the Heaven Do Imperial Academy and even gave up his position as captain. This time, Lu Yuan was truly astonished. Chihiro Snow's short words contained a lot of information. First, Tang San had entered the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Second, Tang San and Yu Qianheng knew each other, and it was Yu Qianheng who pulled him into the academy. Third, Tang San was now the captain of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. These were the three most obvious pieces of information in Chihiro Snow's words. But if one thought about it carefully, they would be able to deduce even more. First, Yu Qianheng had lost his confidence and left the academy like a zombie. Now that he had returned, it meant that his confidence had been rebuilt. And the most important thing about rebuilding confidence was that his strength had increased. Strength was the basis for confidence, and it could be inferred that Yu Qianheng was much stronger than before. Secondly, even though Yu Qianheng's strength had increased, he still gave the captain's position to Tang San. This meant that he was not Tang San's opponent. From this, it could be seen that Tang San's strength should be even stronger. However, Tang San was only level 29 2 years ago, which was a far cry from Yu Tianheng. Therefore, it was very likely that Tang San had obtained a new opportunity in these 2 years. Or perhaps Tang San had cultivated twin martial souls. Otherwise, his strength wouldn't have increased so quickly. Third, since Tang San had entered the Heaven Do Imperial Academy, then Grandmaster Yu Tianheng must have also followed him. Thinking back to the Thunder Academy's 4-in-1 fusion technique and Yu Tianxin's blind confidence, it was very likely that Grandmaster Yu Tianheng had taught the 4-in-1 fusion technique. After all, Grandmaster Yu Tianheng had created a 7-in-1 fusion technique in the original novel. However, Grandmaster Yu Tianheng might have been hiding something, which was why he only taught the 4-in-1 fusion technique. Perhaps Grandmaster Yu Tianheng's goal was to test his strength. After all, he had enmity with Tang San, and Tang San also viewed him as an enemy. Moreover, in the finals, the Heavenly Star Academy and the Heaven Do Imperial Academy were bound to meet. Therefore, with Grandmaster's nature, he wanted to collect information on himself and think of ways to deal with him. However, Grandmaster didn't expect the Heavenly Star Academy to be so strong. Before Lu Yuan even entered the arena, they had already defeated the Thunder Academy. Since Tang San and Yu Tianheng were here, the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's trump card must be his 7-figure fusion technique. Once the 7 figures fuse, Tang San would be able to use the clear sky body. Therefore, he might encounter this trump card as well. Based on Chihiro Snow's information, Lu Yuan made some speculations and basically sorted out all the connections. No wonder he kept feeling that someone was spying on him that day. He thought it was just that loser, Shen, but now that he thought about it, there was also a master hiding in the dark. However, since Grandmaster was spying on him and collecting information, he must know that he was the captain of the Heavenly Star Academy's team and that Lu Erlong was the vice principal of the Heavenly Star Academy. Both of them would follow the team at all times, so he must know of Lu Erlong's existence. However, even now, he knew that Lu Erlong had been waiting for him, but he still didn't have any plans to meet her. This man, Lu Yuan thought to himself, and the corner of his mouth hooked up into a sneer. These people were really good at scheming, but it was a pity that no matter how many tricks they had, they couldn't withstand a single blow from absolute strength. Even if Tang San was a soul sage, Lu Yuan could still beat him up, let alone a 7-figure martial soul true body. In the end, a clown was just a clown. The so-called wisdom that he was so proud of was just a little bit of cleverness. As for how Grandmaster and the others knew that he was in the Heavenly Star Academy and specially prepared this plan, Lu Yuan didn't find it strange. They probably saw it during the opening ceremony. After all, Grandmaster loved to collect information, and he definitely wouldn't miss the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament. Once he arrived, he would definitely see Lu Yuan. Of course, it was also possible that he found out about Lu Yuan's existence through other means. Because there were many ways to find out that he was in the Heavenly Star Academy, Lu Yuan wasn't interested. What he was interested in was how strong Tang San and the others were now. As he thought about it, he asked Chihiro Snow his question, "So, Cher, do you know how strong they are now?" "Strength? I'm not too sure about that. I haven't had much time to manage the matters of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy these days, so I only have a rough idea. Tang San seems to be a Soul King, Yu Tianheng seems to be rank 47 or 48, and Dai Mubai seems to be around the same rank as Yu Tianheng. But there's one thing that's very strange." Chihiro Snow furrowed his beautiful brows as he spoke. "What is it?" Lu Yuan asked. "I've only met them once, but they all have an aura that makes me feel very uncomfortable." Chihiro Snow said, "An aura that makes you feel very uncomfortable?" After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but gently stroke his chin. He had a few guesses in his heart. If an aura could make Chihiro Snow, who possessed divine power, feel uncomfortable, then it was self-evident what it was. And what's even more interesting is that Tang San, Yu Tianheng, and Dai Bai, these three fellows who have a grudge against me, have actually gathered together. Are they preparing to take revenge on me as a group? With that thought, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. But since the three of you worked so hard to gather together, then if I don't cripple all of you in one go, then I'll be letting you down. With a faint smile, Lu Yuan turned his gaze to Chihiro Snow and continued to ask, Share, who are the other members of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy? The Sure Brothers, Iso, and a support-type soul master called Yi Lingling. They're all soul ancestors, and with Tang San and the other two, they're the official members of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team. Chihiro Snow said, Is that so? That means the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team has 1 Soul King and 6 Soul Ancestors. That's 1 more Soul Ancestor than the Heavenly Star Academy's team without me. Their strength is pretty good. Lu Yuan said with a light smile. What's the use of that? They'll still lose if they meet you. Chihiro Snow glanced at Lu Yuan as he spoke. For those who had fought with Lu Yuan before, she knew Lu Yuan's strength inside out. He was definitely an existence that far surpassed his level. Even someone like her, who had touched the threshold of a soul Douluo, was no match for him, let alone others. Isn't losing to me inevitable? Lu Yuan chuckled. Oh, you. Chihiro Snow rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. Although Lu Yuan was speaking the truth, was it really good to be so narcissistic? Hee. After being glared at by Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan laughed mischievously. He didn't seem to mind at all. Instead, he leisurely picked up his teacup and took a sip of tea. Chapter 593. Sure, there's something I need to tell you. Lu Yuan took a sip of tea and said softly, What is it? Chihiro Snow asked curiously. After the finals, I'll kill 2 members of the Heaven Do Imperial Academy's team, Lu Yuan said. Who? Chihiro Snow asked. Yu Qianheng and Dai Bai. They both have enmity with me, so I have to get rid of them. Otherwise, they'll cause trouble for me. Although I don't care about them and don't place them in my eyes, it's still a little disgusting to see them jumping around and causing trouble. Lu Yuan said, Both have enmity with you? Chihiro Snow was stunned for a moment before he reacted. His enmity with Yu Tianheng should have started back at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Back then, Lu Yuan had crushed Yu Tianheng's pride and crushed the blue lightning tyrant dragon. That was when they started their enmity. To be more precise, Lu Yuan's enmity with Yu Tianheng was because of her. After all, Lu Yuan's actions were part of his plan. Aside from letting Lu Yuan get acquainted with Ning Fengji, the plan was also to stabilize her position in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. As for his enmity with Dai Bai, Chihiro Snow knew that Dai Bai was Zhu Zhuqing's fiancé. Dai Bai would definitely take revenge for stealing Zhu Zhuqing's fiancé. Although Dai Bai deserved it, since he was the one who abandoned Zhu Zhuqing first before Zhu Zhuqing ended up with Obuchi, people only saw the flaws of others and not their own. Therefore, Dai Bai probably hated Obuchi to the core. Furthermore, Dai Bai was a prince of the Xianra Empire. Killing him was no big deal. Killing Yu Qianheng and Dai Bai wasn't a big deal. All he had to do was clean it up. Therefore, Chihiro Snow didn't object. So, Cher, you agree with me killing them? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. If you want to kill them, then kill them. It's not a big deal anyway. They're just 2 soul ancestors. Although their statuses aren't ordinary, that's all there is to it. Chihiro Snow said without a care in the world. Hee. I knew that Cher's boldness was extraordinary. She didn't even put the future successor of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect and the second prince of the Xianra Empire in her eyes. Impressive, impressive. It's a pity that you're a woman, Cher. If you were a man, you'd definitely be a rare ruler with great talent and bold vision. Lu Yuan said with a smile. It's a pity that I'm a woman. But if I were really a man, would you still help me like this? Chihiro Snow looked straight at Lu Yuan and asked softly. I wouldn't. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, For the sake of teacher, senior sister, and myself, I might even choose to kill you. The Pontiff Palace and the Hall of Consecration don't get along. Sooner or later, they'll fight for power and profit. We're destined to go against each other. Given my personality, I'd nip the danger in the bud. Real, you're a real man. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This man actually said that if she were a man, he'd kill her. Couldn't he be a little more tactful? Did he really think that she wouldn't be angry? I've always been a real man. For example, I've never denied that I'm a scumbag. I'm a scumbag now. I've never hidden my desire for your body. Would I tell you that I was lusting after you the first time I saw you? Lu Yuan winked at Chihiro Snow and said with a smile, "Didn't you say that you fell in love with me at first sight?" Chihiro Snow's cherry mouth slightly opened and softly spat out a sentence. There's no such thing as love at first sight. All love at first sight is lustful. I'm a complete beauty lover. You're so beautiful, so I'm naturally tempted. Lu Yuan said with a serious face. Well, so you're only telling the truth now, right? When you told me that you fell in love with me at first sight, I was touched for a while. So, it was because of my face? Chihiro Snow asked. Not only your face, but also your figure. I have high standards. Just having a good-looking face isn't enough. Lu Yuan said as if it was a matter of fact. Bah, you pervert. You're really a visual animal. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but spit and said, Visual animal. Yes, I'm indeed a visual animal. But aren't you, Cher? If I wasn't handsome, would you like me? Lu Yuan asked back. That of course I... After being asked by Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow's eyes suddenly drifted, and her mouth murmured, unable to say a definite answer. Of course you wouldn't like me, right? You're a beauty lover. You're also a visual animal, and you're still talking about me. Lu Yuan rolled her eyes at Chihiro Snow and said, So what if I'm a visual animal? I'm not the one who pursued you. It's you who pursued me. Chihiro Snow raised her head with a proud look on her face. Seeing Qian Rinchua's expression, Lu Yuan couldn't help but laugh. This girl was really interesting. So I'm the one who pursued you, and you're very proud? Very proud? Lu Yuan asked with a light smile. Yes, I'm very proud, very proud. I'm the only woman you've pursued, unlike the other three, who all threw themselves at you. Chihiro Snow curled her lips and had a somewhat proud look on her face. Yes, you're the best. In fact, among the three of you, only you and Nar are the ones I can't control at first sight. And between the two of you, you're the most attractive to me. Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. At least you have some eyesight. This lady's charm is naturally the greatest. Chihiro Snow tenderly snorted, and then looked at Lu Yuan, and the two couldn't help but laugh at the same time. Oh, right, just now you said that after the finals, you'll kill Yu Qianheng and Dai Mubai. Then what about that Tang San? Should we kill him? Chihiro Snow asked. Tang San, let's see his luck. Lu Yuan said. See his luck. Chihiro Snow was somewhat puzzled. If it didn't kill him, then let him go. What did he mean by see his luck? Yes, don't ask now. You'll know in the future. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Okay. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow could only give up on asking. She only cursed in her heart. This stinking bastard, he actually wants to keep me in suspense. Looking at Chihiro Snow's pouting red lips, how could Lu Yuan not know what she was thinking? He understood Chihiro Snow the most. This girl was definitely cursing him in her heart. With a cough, Lu Yuan said, Okay, Cher, don't be angry. I have a surprise for you. What surprise? Chihiro Snow was somewhat curious. Take out your divine sword. I'll upgrade it. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Upgrade? Chihiro Snow was stunned for a moment, and then immediately reacted. Her voice was filled with astonishment. You've become a Class 7 soul engineer? Facing Chihiro Snow's astonished gaze, Lu Yuan smiled and said softly, Yes, I just broke through. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.